Hello and welcome back to the Resleevables Judgment Edition. I'm your host, Patrick Sullivan, joined by Pro Tour champion and Magic Hall of Famer Patrick Chapin, and we are looking at the capstone here of Odyssey block. Sort of an oddball set, but following up on Torment, which was a very much mono-black matters kind of set. We're now doing something of the opposite, but something just also kind of on its own island.
Green-white matters?
Sort of. Green-white matters to a degree. Now, no one can say anything bad about this set to me. It's first Pro Tour cash.
Oh, we'll try.
And we will try. First Pro Tour cash. And for as odd as sort of the structure of the set is, there are just a lot of really cool individual designs and sort of offbeat cycles that are going on here. But the actual, is this a green-white set at all? That's a little bit eye of the beholder, I would say.
Well, we'll see when we get to it. I love seeing you in your innocent era. Like, between Torment and Judgment, it is just so obvious that you're a little kid again.
Yeah. I mean, the amount that I've played with all of these commons, is maybe more than any other set. It's certainly like on the very, very short list for me. And there's just fanning through the artwork, going through and doing research for this. So there's so many cards I got to where my reaction was just, oh yeah. Even the most innocuous, maybe 23rd playable in your draft deck, maybe not even that. I have a lot of warm memories here, let's say.
Okay.
But I do appreciate that there is like a lot of innovative stuff going on here. And for as much as there could have been this instinct to sort of copy paste what was going on in Torment and just do the reverse of it, there's plenty of things going on here that are unique to the set and have inspired a lot of designs.
That's true.
I'm taking it maybe you're a bit cooler on Judgment than
I think it'll just come out organically. I think that your position is very valid.
Okay.
I think it's I'm not disagreeing. I think that there's a couple different lenses that one can look at. Like, if all you know is Commander.
Yeah.
And then you just get really excited talking about the set as you perceive it, because your whole lens is Commander. What's gained by being like, well, have you considered other perspectives that are less fun and blissfully innocent?
Sure, yeah.
Your perspective is valid. It's a totally reasonable one, and it is consistent with what I would expect from somebody who has played at the level that you had played at the time you played. Points you're making are totally reasonable points, There's other points that will emerge organically, I think, over the course of the next few hours. You can say for sure it is not just, it's not a totally derivative animal,
No, not at all. It's kind of separate from the superstructure of the set, which is its own thing and its own issue, but not light on innovation. Not light on cards where you see them for the first time and it's kind of like, whoa, wow.
Then maybe I'm cooler on the amount of innovation.
Okay.
And when you first see them, like, wow.
Okay.
But I will say that it has some bright spots of innovation, and it has some successes that are very innovative. And not just innovative in like a usual trajectory. It's kind of like a jump forward in a couple ways. It's got some powerful cards.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely another one of those, man, most of these cards are not good, but it has some powerful cards.
Yeah, it's kind of got the same thing that we talked about with Torment, too, of just it's actually kind of stood the test of time in some ways, because Flashback and Threshold are the types of mechanics that are likely to scale up in older formats. And so even though the average card in both Torment and Judgment is far weaker, a lot of the cards, a disproportionate number of the cards still have purpose in older formats. And so I think there's a fondness and nostalgia for some of it because the bold ink is so powerful. But the filler of the set is, let's say, not great, confusing, not super satisfying to play with, but people have their memories over the top 5 or 10 cards in the set or whatever, the things that still hang around in formats like Legacy and Vintage.
I do think, though, you got to be a little careful of making too general of or too, like, writing too charitable of a story of why they've stood the test of time, when in reality, very high rate tutors and cards you're not intending to pay their casting cost make up almost all of the cards that have stood the test of time.
Sure. Yeah, that's
so I'm
fair.
not totally sure I would say they've stood the test of time. There are a lot of cards in this set that I wouldn't want to be more powerful.
Oh, yeah. And we'll get to some of those. When we close down the Torment show, I referred to Judgment, being excited about it. And part of it was that it had, in my opinion, like a bottom 5 all-time Magic design. And so naturally that inspired a lot of speculation from people in the forums as to what would that design be.
If yours is anything like mine, then there's a bottom 5 cycle of all time. And it's weirdly like 7 cards or whatever. But I don't know, maybe not.
No one has gotten it right yet. Of anyone that I've seen speculating, there's been some good guesses out there, and I can understand where people's head is at. You have not gotten the design yet. And part of it is, wasn't super powerful, wasn't a tournament player by any means, but...
Well, if you're thinking of the same one as me, it's not like it's nothing. Oh, you're not talking about the cycle. You're talking about the Worst Defender?
The Worst Defender.
The Worst Defender wasn't much of a tournament player. But the thing I think is beautiful about the cycle is that the third worst design is still a bottom, like it's absolutely abysmal. And the nice thing is that the second and third worst designs, and maybe fourth, are all big tournament players.
Oh, yeah. So I can't wait to do this, obviously. So excited. This might be my most rose-tinted glasses of any set. Like,
it's sounding like it so far because you look real happy about things that really make me... It's like when an 8-year-old is telling you about their collection of G.I. Joes.
Oh, yeah. This is the first time in years, like doing the research for this show, that I saw and thought about Gore-Tusk Firebeast. And
I love that card.
Oh, my God. So I can't wait, obviously. Very excited about this. We'll be back in a moment with the facts of Judgment. Welcome back to the Resleevables Judgment Edition. Going to get into the facts of the set, but first, a word from our sponsor, Tales of Adventure. Been with the show since day one. You can see I'm rocking the shirt. At this point, we've been pitching their ads for a very long time. I don't really even know how much we have to do it anymore because the consensus is whatever card you're looking for, seal product, you name it, they're the best in the business. If you head over to the website, toamagic.com, they are particularly great for high end. First of all, they have a deep inventory of things like revised dual lands, stuff you need for Commander decks, 93, 94 type of formats, you name it. They have stacks and stacks of this stuff. So if you're worried about supply, you don't have to worry about that. If you're worried about making a big purchase online, you see HP on a website and you don't really know what that means. Who's grading the thing? What if there's an issue? What if I buy an MP card we disagree on grade? Huge pain in the ass. You don't want to deal with that. How Tales of Adventure solves this is on their high-end stuff. Everything's individually scanned. So you can see the card you are purchasing ahead of time. You don't have to speculate on the grading system. You actually see the card that you are buying. When you head over to checkout, use promo code RESLEEVABLES for 5% off of all of your orders. Doesn't matter how large the order is. Doesn't matter how many times you've used that promo code. It's good for 5% every single time. And any order placed inside the United States comes with free tracking and shipping. Tales of Adventure, Eternal lives here. So as mentioned before, Judgment, the third set in the Odyssey block. It is the 26th Magic the Gathering expansion and was released May 27, 2002. It is a smaller set. We're looking at 143 cards, 55 commons, 44 uncommons, and 44 rares. Again, we're still before Mythic Rarities being introduced. The expansion symbol, a set of scales trying to convey, justice or what have you. Judgment is, at the top line, a green and white themed set. It is supposed to be sort of in contrast to Torment. Again, as we get into the details, it's a little bit murkier, but at least that is the way that the set was billed. The pre-release foil and language, do you know?
Is it Glory?
That is correct.
And is it, Russian?
Hebrew. Noteworthy about this set is that in an effort to sort of convey the off-balance asymmetrical nature, the set is wildly all over the place with the number of cards that appear in each color. 16 black cards, 33 green and white, 27 red and blue, 3 non-basics, and 4 multicolor cards. Set was sold a couple different ways, 15 card boosters, you know the standard there. We've also got some pre-con decks. The pre-cons were also an effort to sort of convey a certain sort of tone. They are very asymmetrical with their colors. There's a blue-red deck, a mono-white deck, a mono-green deck, and a green-white deck. So we are looking at no black represented, and green and white each appearing in 2 of the 4 decks. We have blue-red air razors. This is, again, the archetypical blue-red pre-con deck of the era. It involves burn spells, blue stuff with no rhyme or reason, no synergies, no whatever. The mono-white deck is a beatdown deck. The mono-green deck is a beatdown deck, and the green-white deck is also a beatdown deck. This is also, again, sold, as you all know, in the greatest product of all time, the Judgment Fat Pack. It is. It's the best. It's the best one. The design and development team, led by Brian Tinsman, with Mike Elliott, Richard Garfield, Bill Rose, and Mark Rosewater running out the design team. Development, Randy Bueller, co-lead with William Jockish, Mike Elliott, Joe Hawk, Worth Wolpert. Get to him here in a moment. Contributions from Paul Barclay, Mike Donay, and Brian Schneider. Art direction by Jeremy Cranford and Dana Knudsen. So I believe this is the first time Worth appears in a credit for a set. Some of you may recognize him as someone with some Pro Tour top finishes in the 1990s, but probably more of you would recognize him as someone who worked at Wizards of the Coast for a long time in a variety of capacities, the most visible one being the lead of Magic Online for a very, very long time. This is, at the time at least, 15, 20 years ago. That job, let's say it's not for everyone. You have to have
Arguably, it's not for anybody.
You have to have some pretty thick skin. And Worth, hard Scrabble, son of Ohio, I always thought did a very, very good job of balancing. We are receptive to your feedback. We understand the frustration that this client regularly doesn't work, and that it crashes all the time and cards don't work and it's bugged during big tournaments and all that, but also towing the company line as best that he could. Worth has gone on to work at a variety of different startups and was back working on Magic for a little while recently, but
like 72 hours.
Yeah.
I love Worth. I do think it's impressive the number of years he was able to string people along, like players along on Magic Online. Yeah. In retrospect, it probably wasn't great to promise to never reprint Force of Will.
Sure.
But like, you know.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
You gotta take your lumps.
Yeah. I did learn something from him in an online exchange. Like we were friends at the time. We didn't know each other super well. Certainly not like we do now. And I was in a Magic Online PTQ, and I was either 6-0 or 7-0, and it crashed. And it was like, well, what? I'm sitting there. I've never really played a big Magic Online event, certainly never made a deep run before. What's going to be the compensation? And what gets announced is like, we're just scrubbing the tournament, and you can come back next week and try again. We'll just do it over. And so I'm tweeting at Worth. And I was like, all the things you would expect me to say. It's kind of messed up that I was 7-0, and now we're just going to run the whole thing back. And, part of what I'm paying for and competing in these events is my time, and that I can't get back. And like, I can't just spend another Saturday playing in something like this, hoping it doesn't crash again. And we're going back.
To say nothing of being up 7-0. You right, just count, you're going to be 7-0 again. I mean,
yeah, not likely. So we're going back and forth, and he's doing his best or whatever. And we hit a point in the conversation, I don't exactly remember what was said, where I'm like, I don't really believe what you're saying right now. Not like I'm apoplectic, but like the facts on the ground. I don't believe what you're communicating to me right now. And Worth was like, listen, if you like don't trust me that I'm telling you the truth, then we like can't really proceed with the conversation. There needs to be a level of understanding that like, I know it's frustrating, but we're doing this I'm communicating in good faith. And like, what I'm telling you is my best understanding of the truth. And if you think I'm just lying, then like, we can't really go forward with the conversation. And I was like, that's a really good way of putting it. And I had not considered that before. And it would have been very easy for him to be dismissive or fly off the handle with me making that sort of accusation. But instead, in like a very cool, calm, and measured way.
Now you can't proceed with the conversation because clearly you still don't believe it.
And I was like, no. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm obviously very mad and frustrated. And, he heard all that. But yeah, just as a communicator on managing a product known for having some hiccups
and lies. Yep.
Over the years. Big influence on Magic. Worked on a variety of sets, was in their future league, got some policy change in their future league due to poor incentives, worked on Magic Online. Do you know, is that like public info how that went?
I don't know. I think so, but I don't know. At the very least, people have talked about it, but they usually don't attach specific people's names. So,
well, like, this was like 25 years ago. I don't think I'm blowing up anyone's spot at this point. But there was a point in the Future League, which is like sort of like play design, I guess you would call it, but a lot more like competitive focus.
It changed right before I got there.
Okay.
Like when I got there, Worth had just helped get it changed where they were awarding the previous year or whatever. They were awarding bonuses to people based on your win percentages in the future, like in the playtesting league. Rather than try to make the game as good as possible, there was like a big financial incentive to people to literally win as much as possible. And it was, damaging for the game. But some of the people at the time weren't taking it to the extreme. Some people like Worth demonstrated successfully why this policy needed to change for the good of the game, Yeah,
because you're working a year out, let's say. Whatever
you're
working on, So you have a little bit of sense of what standard may look like, but not a full sense. And of course, building a new deck, unless the cards are really, really busted, you're probably just not doing as good of a job as all the deck lists that have been iterated on by the public for the previous year. So if you're trying to win under this set of incentives, do you test the new cards where you don't really know if they're good or not? They haven't been proven in the real world yet. Or do you just play the default best deck from last year's standard with no new cards? If you were trying to win, you would do the second thing.
Yeah, I mean, you keep your eyes open to see if there's a card that's just obviously busted in your, you're playing mono red. Oh, hey,
Yeah. It also has some perverse incentives when it comes to the actual games themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Because ideally, you and I are playtesting a set.
We're trying to learn. Not just welcome to the Pro Tour.
Right. I attack into you with a 2/2, and you're like, hey, I don't know if you know this, my 2/2 has first strike. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Maybe the card changed recently, even. It recently got first strike, for all we know. And I go, oh, okay. I'm going to back up then. I didn't know that. But if it's, our bonuses are on the line, you might be less inclined to have me take back that attack.
You're beating some people badly, and they're not aware. Like, they might not have fully appreciated how you were winning, and you keep your mouth shut about your busted cards, running it as long as you can.
So this is very bad. This is all very, very bad. And
which is why it's good that somebody actually puts a spotlight on it and like gets it to change.
Possible Worth Wolpert played more Fires of Yavimaya than anyone else lifetime.
Oh, I don't know about
that. Anyway, he's a huge influence on the game as a player, as a director, as a designer, and again,
as a basketball player,
as a hooper.
Oh, yeah.
I last time I hooped with Worth, someone, don't want to name names, but a Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer was maybe not moving the ball around as much as they should have been, and Worth just walked off the court. He's like, I'm not doing this. It's awesome. Absolute legend. And just wanted to give him his flowers here because I believe it's the first time he's coming up as a set designer. That does it for the facts of Judgment. We'll be back.
I love that to you is a fact.
It's a fact. Worth Wolpert, big influence on Magic, good person. That's a fact. That goes into the facts section. We'll be back in a moment with the mechanics of Judgment. Welcome back to the Resleevables Judgment Edition. We are here with the mechanics. Now, it's a little bit of a blurry line because a lot of the things that I would describe as being new are also cycles. And so where do you kind of draw the line between something being a cycle and something being a mechanic? That said, we see the return and partial reimagination of the mechanics of the block, flashback and threshold. Threshold is an ongoing ability that when you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, this card changes in some fashion, and flashback is an alternate mana cost that you can play out of the graveyard, exiling the card to do the same spell that it was on the front end. So an interesting thing about these mechanics in the set and in the context of the set is if you were a drafter or even kind of like a casual constructed player, you would know that when it came to flashback and threshold, these colors were not created equal. Blue, and to a lesser extent, red and black, had an abundance of ways of getting things into the graveyard pretty easily. Green and white really strained. There was a joke about Mystic Enforcer in our sealed deck group of people who were going to PTQs, best blue card in the set. Like if you were just playing green-white, the card was like close to unplayable. And that had a lot to do with green and white just not being able to get cards in the graveyard. It's interesting to me that they basically don't address it at all. There's nothing here that's like greasing the wheels structurally on green and white getting cards in the graveyard. It's just like, here you go.
There is a second 0 mana outlet at a terrible rate. I guess Anorid Brushhopper lets you discard 2 cards.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's an enabler of sorts. And that card was priced to move. Crowsand Verge.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that, you know?
Yeah.
They don't really address it though structurally. I don't even know if they identified it as a problem, but it was definitely green and white got the lowest end of enablers and things that kind of smooth that sort of thing out. You know what? Honestly, I'm going to call it there. I think that there's enough. You could possibly say these are mechanics, but they're all collapsed into cycles.
Okay, you're saying you're not calling it on the cycles, you're just calling it on the mechanics?
I'm calling it on mechanics.
No, how about this? At the very least, I think we got to consider the Force Mage, Advocate, like all those green and white cards that bounce stuff to your opponents.
Oh, the Advocates. Yeah, this is a brutal cycle.
It's not really a cycle, it's a mechanic.
Okay, so if we're going to go down that road, I guess you could talk about the Advocates. These are creatures with activated abilities that involved returning a card from your opponent's graveyard to their hand to trigger some sort of ability or effect.
There's a few things fundamentally dubious about these cards. Everything from the repetitiveness of the play pattern where you get stuck and you have to like keep giving your opponent the same thing over and over again. And the amount that they are onboard tricks, and the amount that there's repetitive play pattern on both sides, but also it's not always that satisfying of a get. I mean, there's a little bit with some of them. If you were to do it in really small numbers, there's a thing with the idea of like getting people to play with leftovers is fun.
Yeah.
Right. Like when you're dealing with, you got some mutagen or some clues, or you're making do with a token that's a leftover. Making do with leftovers is fun. And when your opponent gives you the worst cards in your graveyard, some percentage of the time you're getting some leftovers where you're like, oh, okay, I guess this random donk isn't very good right now, but I'll see what I can do with it.
A land.
Right.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it plays a lot worse when it's repetitive. Like if it were just merely a one-shot deal where you're getting multiple, you're getting like a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1 or something, but you have to give your opponent back something.
Or like a spell that says it has additional cost.
Or you could kick it where you're like, it's modal, choose A or B, or you get both if your gift is you give your opponent a regrowth out of their graveyard of your choice or whatever. But when it's repetitive, that goes downhill very quickly.
Yeah. And they are very repetitive in part because you're kind of like priced in once you're doing it. Often it's like, that's just what the game is about now. And the other form of repetition is that these were quietly anti-threshold measures. So if your opponent had any sort of threshold thing going on, often it was just like on the margins, it was just better. The tiebreaker was just keep them off of this.
It was interesting.
And this set and block is not short on interesting. And that is some interesting stuff.
Yeah. And I think that with those advocates, part of the thing going on there is the amount that sometimes you go down this path where you're like, I have to go on this line of play that is probably dooming me.
Yes.
or you're in the spot of I just can't use the ability. It's just too bad to,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's interesting to think about because it is something different. But I don't know why it would make a good thing for 8 activated abilities instead of a couple kicker cards.
Totally. And so if that qualifies to you as a mechanic, I also want to talk about Phantom a little bit. I think that's kind of in the same
100%.
vein. So the Phantoms are basically creatures that are all 0/0s.
They all have 0 toughness.
They enter the battlefield with a certain number of +1/+1 counters. And whenever the creature would be dealt damage,
Prevent the damage and remove 1 counter.
so you have Phantom Nomad, Phantom Flock, Phantom Tiger, Phantom Centaur, Phantom Neshoba.
And Phantom Nantuku. Part of what I like about them is there's kind of they're part of a meta theme where, how like you were talking about how green-white isn't filling the graveyard?
Yeah.
It's actually almost the opposite. Green-white isn't necessarily filling the graveyard. It's not even just that they're undoing it with all the advocates. They've got flashback. They've got 2-for-1s. They've got stuff. They've got like a weirdly high amount of get your own cards out of the graveyard, getting your creatures back, your auras back, your land back. They've got cards that are very resilient. That if they were going to die, they leave you some left over. There's like a bunch of stuff that leave you something left over when they go away if they die. And I think that the Phantoms, they're like an early foray into some synergy that Magic didn't really like. That now we just take for granted. Like this +1/+1 counter stuff is so ubiquitous.
Mm-hmm.
This set having Iron Shell Beetle and the Phantoms, where the Phantom makes the +1/+1 counter more than the sum of its parts. I actually think that's really good, and I think that the Phantoms, there's more than sufficient counterplay. There's bounce, and there's edict effects, and there's countering, and there's even stuff like Flare of Pain. And at the end of the day, most of them are kind of donks.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that's like the perfect execution, and there are some problems in certain ways. But I actually think that the way that it played out in this set and in the world, the context that it was in, I think that the exploits like Elephant Guide on your Phantom actually plays well in context, because you got to understand you're going into it from the world of Torment was the last set. And when you're dealing with stuff like Mono Black, Control, and it's not like Elephant Guide on a Phantom is out of bounds, and it's evocative and sweet and more than the sum of the parts. And they both are kind of like working in the same direction. But then when you stack them, you're not just going in that, you're getting a third thing because it never dies now. One of the things I like so much about this set is that it executes green-white in many notes. It's not just like Torment, it's awesome, but Torment's it's one very good execution of black. And it's kind of missing out on a bunch of elements of black you could have done.
Uh-huh.
This set, there's a lot of different green-white stuff to think about. You can go tall, you can go wide, you can play out of the graveyard, or you can avoid it. You can put auras on your guys. You can make something really big. You can be like, I'm just going to play some really efficient rates. You got this advocate mechanic to deal with, to consider. There's like a lot of ways to play green-white. So I like it as a dimension, and I think it's one of those mechanics that really does play well and differently depending on what you attach to it. Like, what's a Phantom with protection? What's a Phantom with flying? What's a Phantom that's costs 2? What's a Phantom that costs 7? What's a Phantom that has an ability that scales? These are all interesting questions. The heart of it's really that +1/+1 counters are a really good mechanic.
Yes.
But I think it's a bold move that actually works out better than 0 in this set.
So all that's very well said. Moves the needle for me a little bit. And I do appreciate the giving some sort of structure or like a small sort of sub theme going on in green-white to make it feel like a green-white thing. I think my critique is I just don't think the Phantom mechanic plays really well at a baseline. So first of all, you have the 2 sort of tent poles of removal, one being damage and one being the black style remove stuff. And I think the how polarizing it is, where your smother just works and your damage-based removal is very, very bad most of the time, is a little bit odd. But for me, more of the issue is just how negatively it impacts combat. So if you have a Phantom Centaur and it's a 5/3 right now, it's 2-0 and it's got the 3 counters on it. Let's imagine I got this Phantom. Forget the Phantom, for example. I've just got a 5/3. And you have a 5/5 and a 1/1. Now this is like pretty interesting. This is like Magic 101 that makes it like such a sweet game. Where do I attack with my 5/3 into your 5/5? And it's like there's a distribution of outcomes where you chump with your 1/1, you trade with your 5/5, or you take the hit. And depending on all these different things that are going on, you might make one play or the other, or I might assume you're going to make one play versus the other, and then all of these decisions fall out of it. And in that scenario, if it's a Phantom instead of just a regular 5/3, it's like you get so much equity out of chump blocking relative to what you usually do that there's an incentive for me in that spot to just not attack because I'm so much more powerful on defense than offense. And I understand that sounds like a pretty specific example, but it really does permeate throughout the entire experience.
See, I actually consider that upside. I think that it's something different to think about in combat, and the answer isn't always the same. There is a little bit of, we end up in a spot of, I know that you would know this, and therefore I can do this. It changes the equation, particularly if you're a high enough level, where somebody would normally not be wanting to chump block, and because you can now count on them to not attack and to want to chump block, it changes the nature of things that do 1 damage. And, there's just like a bunch of things that fall out of it. It's not totally onboard trick because you made progress, the creature's a little smaller or whatever. It's pretty onboard trickiness complexity, not because you just got blown out for nothing, but because there's, like you say, there's a bunch of permutations, and the permutations create cascading ripples of incentives. It was very difficult for most people to track the ripple, like the relative rippling changes of what your incentives really were, which was, very beneficial for a very high level player, but a little intense. But unfortunately, it was so invisible. I think a lot of novices really liked the mechanic. It's not like Ravager where it's all on one and it's just, it's a different kind of thing where we're moving percentages and the percentages moving change other percentages.
And with a lot of the designs, fortunately, you do have an out of like, I don't really quite know what's going on. You're attacking me with a Phantom Nomad early on in the game, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, is he setting me up somehow? Unfortunately, with a lot of these cards, I have the out of being like, all right, I'll take 2. Like, I can't really figure out what's going on here or how I want to engage with this, but it's like not really that much pressure as opposed to, again, Artbound Ravager, where it's like, you're dead. If you don't block, you're dead. And actually, in fact, if you block with 4 things, you're still dead. However, it's really in your face. You have to sort through like the cascading consequences in the decision trees. And these actually just give you the out of being like, I guess I'll just take the hit, but we'll just see what next turn looks like.
There is something about things are changing and the game is going to be a little different next turn.
Mm-hmm.
And it means something very different when you have a 2/2 Phantom versus a 1/1 Phantom. And the idea of your 2/2 trading with a 2/2 and then becoming a 1/1, and then how different you're going to play with that as a 1/1 because it has this... there's kind of a secret lot of power tied up in that whole glitch of once you buff its toughness one time, it's forever-ish. But it's actually pretty easy to get out of, which is kind of the thing I like about it.
I do like Phantom Centaur as a design here quite a bit. So you have the Phantom mechanic, which is confusing but generally hostile to red removal. It's not a universe, because like by dealing 1 damage to your Phantom Centaur, it makes progress in a way that dealing
Lava Dart.
1 damage to your 5/3 typically doesn't. So you have some level of it's confusing, but largely beneficial against red, and then explicitly anti-black with protection from black. That's a really, I think, a cool way of assigning power points in a way that makes sense for the types of things you're trying to push back on.
I love that to you, that red is somehow part of the equation. Like, what about blue?
Blue is...
Because blue and red are on equal footing.
Yeah, blue and red in both sets just get a bunch of busted cards for the 20th straight set. That's its theme.
All I meant was that...
how many busted tutors are in blue in this set?
Yeah, I guess I just mean that Phantom Centaur is definitely a very explicitly anti-Torment card.
Yes.
But heaven forbid we accidentally punish blue. We can accidentally punish red all day long.
Yeah. Well, that's why you put Lawan in the previous set. So there's like this like
In a long, proud tradition of gainsays.
All right, so I'm happy calling it there for the mechanics. We'll be back in a moment with the cycles of judgment. Welcome back to the Resleevables Judgment Edition. It is Cycles time, brought to you by Bosch and Roll. That is Brian Koval's YouTube channel. If you are here watching it on YouTube, go check that out, Bosch and Roll. Brian Koval, extremely successful Eternal format player, and his archives and new stuff of just basically playing through Magic Online leagues and that sort of thing. Incredibly entertaining, high level of play. So if you're looking to level up your game in those formats, or you just want to watch the Fantastic Car shenanigans for the next however long that's going on for, go check that out, Bosch and Roll. All right, so we're here with some cycles. I want to start first with a vertical cycle of sorts. Arguably, this could have been in the mechanics section. The Wormfang creatures, which are creatures that basically exile a certain thing as they come into play, and then when it comes back out, you get your thing back.
One of the things Blue and Red has going on is that they have the Wormfang and the Gorgers, which are new takes on the Nightmare stuff, but instead of strangling your opponent's stuff, you strangle your own stuff. I think it's a delicate balance when you're trying to make it about green-white. What do you put in blue and red? Temporarily tying up some of your resources is an interesting thing to be working with, you know? It's a little weird that multiples of them tie up one of your lands.
Yes.
But it's not like that even plays well. That's just also just pay a blue.
And they're overrate enough and limited that you just play them.
No. The 2/2 isn't.
No, the 2/2.
The 2/4 is. Yeah. But yeah, like 2/2. It's like, okay, my 2/2 just strangles one of my land. And then the red ones, you know, stuff like strangle all of your permanents and strangle all of your life but one. And like the red ones are very intense.
Whirlgorger Dragon is probably the most iconic of all these.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's the most powerful and also,
for
maybe not
reasons.
surprising, the one that doesn't adhere to the spirit of the mechanic at all. This one is all about just generating loops of enters and leaves.
I don't think it was designed to do that. It just is so much of the power is fundamentally that. And they kind of leaned into it in a spot of they're like, oh, well, this is kind of exciting.
Yeah, I mean,
but it doesn't really work right.
It was one of the better rares in the set for limited, and in that setting, it kind of played like you'd expect it to.
Yeah,
it's like
there's a lot of that I'm just going to play a card that makes the game about exactly one thing, and sometimes the 7/7 flyer is like, you know.
No, I will
good enough to win.
Yes, that is.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's really all in.
Yeah, there is a level of. Like, when I play it, it's a 7/7 flyer, you can handle it, and I attack you in 2 hits, then yeah. There was at least a little bit of the range of setting up on D a little bit, where part of what you were sort of pricing your opponent into is like, I don't think you can necessarily afford to kill this, and it buys me a lot of time to do X, Y, and Z. But the base case is just mostly just a stress test on if you can handle a 7/7 flyer or not.
Well, and sometimes it's like fun that it's like, oh, I passivism your guy so you don't get your stuff back.
Yeah.
But other times you keep phasing your animate dead out, and then your animate dead gets exiled, and so your Whirlgorger Dragon dies. So your animate dead comes back. So your animate dead's the Whirlgorger Dragon.
So you've played,
and the game ends in a draw.
I'm confident in asserting that you've played more vintage than your average Magic player.
Yeah.
How much have you played with and against Whirlgorger over the years?
Plenty.
How like you also played it yourself at times?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like when you're like, because like the way that we did it back then, you play with Bazaar of Baghdad, and you tap your Bazaar of Baghdad, and you discard stuff like Whirlgorger Dragon, and you want to animate dead it, and now you create the loop. But because you have Bazaar of Baghdad every cycle on the loop, you get to mill your whole deck, and you eventually win with something else.
Okay.
You know, because you can move the animate dead eventually.
Yeah, sure.
But like, you just need to have one thing to make progress. If you have a land, you get infinite mana.
Right.
That's pretty sweet. But you do need a way to make progress because it's an like you just end up you just draw the game otherwise, which would come up a ton where you'd be in spots where you just have to decide whether or not you want to draw the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like a very regular.
Is that a function of the rules being different? Like nowadays, I think if you have,
you can't stop the cycle. It's because it's an unbounded loop. That
it's not like I'm choosing to do something. It's like now we're just on the hamster wheel. Okay.
Right. You still have to choose if there's a second target, but as long as you don't have another target for your anime dead, there's no part of the cycle that's optional. And so you just end up like, if you don't have one other thing going on, it is the game ends in a draw. The blue ones are a lot more. There's a lot of versions of very big toughness, unblockable creatures that
the crab.
But it's cool. Strangle one of your turns.
Sure.
That's cool. It's a good execution of what you like, how to give blue and red something that isn't warping the green-white experience.
Or like being in like direct opposition to. Like it's just its own separate thing going on.
Its own separate thing.
Yeah, it's cool. All right. So actual firm cycles here. We have a cycle of common, 1-drops that all sacrifice to do something. Benevolent Bodyguard, Hapless Researcher, Cabal Trainee, Dwarven Scorcher, and Crozen Wayfarer. These are kind of rough for what they are. Very onboard tricky. Yeah. 0 mana to activate. Yeah. With some pretty intense implications, particularly with Benevolent Bodyguard, which was good enough to play. Want a block PTQ with that thing?
See, I don't mind the Bodyguard.
I do.
Why?
As a common? 1-drop?
Yeah.
I guess there's still the out
it's better. It would be better as an uncommon.
Yeah.
But like, the card's gone, right?
There's at least that.
If you're going to make good 1-cost cards, it's kind of nice when they have some purpose, some play to them that aren't, it's not just my common is Curd Ape. Sure. You know what I mean? Like, it's nice if the common, you can like use it later. It's not just all snowball the advantage early on. It's not in the 20 most offensive onboard tricks in the set.
Because it's at least on board.
But so the cycle, like the Scorching one, it's like, it's so muddied when you do the dwarf that also sacrifices to have a token ability, but just has a tiny activated cost. Yeah. And it's some of them, it's not like the Benevolent Bodyguard is at least good for a good reason. Mm-hmm. Hapless Researcher is not, it's good, but it's powerful in context, but not for a good reason.
Right. It may not surprise you to know this ended up being good with things like Dredge, Madness, etc.
It's at the end of the day, they still all go away or whatever. And I do think that there's something about having 1-cost cards that you can try to use them tactically, and that's kind of how you're trying to get your threshold type stuff.
Yeah.
But part of the beauty of it, though, is that these cards are interesting with the advocates. When you are incenting people to play with some donks that will go to the graveyard, it then makes the advocates a little stronger because they can give the donk back. But then if the donk has some play to it later, you get a whole thing going.
Oh, trust me. I watched Adam Horvath navigate that maze of incentives for months on end, testing for the Team Limited Pro Tour. Second cycle, the Incarnations. Brace yourself. So it's really a cycle of 7.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a cycle plus.
It's a cycle. It's so nice they just had to put a couple sprinkles on top of it.
It's a green-white set.
Yeah.
Green and white should get the extra juice.
Oddly enough, the rares actually play better than the lower rarity stuff.
They do.
We'll get into that in a moment.
I wonder if it's because they cost mana.
So these are all elementals. They're 4 mana, and they all have a creature keyword. And while they are in your graveyard, if you control a basic land of the corresponding color, they graft that keyword onto all of your creatures. Valor, Brawn, Wonder, Anger, Filth. Where to even begin?
They're all 2/2s, except Brawn is just a 3/3.
Well, that's the trample. It's the green one.
Yeah.
It's also the only one that plays anywhere near okay.
Filth plays better than Brawn.
I disagree.
I don't know, because at least Filth, there's nothing you could do.
Sure.
Brawn has implications that we just don't talk about until it's too late.
Okay, so that's like touching into the key thing here.
Yeah.
Is the implications until it's too late. These are some of the most all 5 of them are among the most egregious onboard trick cards of all time. In part because they're not even on board while they are doing the tricky thing.
Right. And they don't go anywhere. And they don't cost anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing. They are the epitome of you get nothing. You lose, good day.
So that gets us to what I was talking about when I said one of the worst designs in all of Magic's history. And that award...
It's got to be Valor,
It's
right?
Valor. It's Valor. Responsible for more suicide attacks than Bin Laden. So all these have the issue of like they're just in the graveyard and maybe you're paying attention, maybe not. So let's go through the implications. Filth, as Chapin mentioned, when Filth comes up, you try to block and you can't.
Because you played your turn not realizing all of your opponent's creatures are unblockable.
Right.
But at least that was already true regardless of what you did.
Now that I'm armed with the information, what do I go with from here?
You still have all your pieces.
Well, I can't block for the rest of the game. Okay, that can suck. That's
true.
Frustrating. But at least I understand the terms of engagement going forward.
Right.
All right. So that gets us to anger, probably the most tolerable of the 5 through exactly this lens, which is everything has haste. So I find out about this typically when you go to attack me. And I'm like, what's going on? You just played that thing. And then you point to the anger in the graveyard. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay. So again, that's really powerful. That might be really frustrating. But
yeah, but its play is the least bad of the 5.
It's the least bad.
Because like at least with anger, you frequently find out the first tidbit. Whereas filth, you don't find out until you're frequently going to die. It's in your graveyard and it keys off you having a mountain. There's no interaction points that are like organic, but it's so powerful of an effect to be in a hidden zone that's not public information with no opportunity cost, no activation cost.
But it's at least very rare
that
something that I control died as a result of being unaware of this. And that's also something that Filth shares. Oh, I can't block. Oh, everything has haste for the rest of the game. Okay, whatever. That's powerful and maybe frustrating. But again, we're not talking about I attack my 2/2 and your 2/2, and then you tell me to put my 2/2 in the graveyard. That gets us to Wonder. Wonder has kind of like two ends of the distribution.
Yeah.
One is Filth.
Right. You just play Wonder, you're dead.
You're dead. And the other is everything has reach now. The reach experience is part of the range. I'm not saying that it's not.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of it was...
And you just get nothing. There's no justifiable. You clearly are just an idiot. Yeah. And frequently, we just talked about Wonder. Right. Because the way that you're the biggest idiot is on my turn, I have Wonder, which is why you can't block. And then on your turn, you attack again, and you lose your card for nothing. Also because I have Wonder.
Yeah. And it's really powerful. For the limited format, for the sensibility of the time, it was really powerful to just cast. You just put it out there, and then it's like a 2/2 flyer split card of you can't attack for the rest of the game. If I have this thing back on defense, like, good luck. You better kill me this turn if you're going to attack. So Brawn, pretty innocuous as far as the cycle goes.
Which partly, I mean, Trample is so much less swingy and brutal of a mechanic.
It's also the one card of like more of the rate is nested in the body, which I appreciate.
Yeah. The body that's in play.
It's rare for it to like matter. Oh my God, I didn't realize the implications of this. The times that it does matter are often very high leverage.
Yeah, but it's frequently mercifully, okay, well, I guess you're dead and we can just go somewhere else.
Just do anything else. And that gets us to Valor.
There's fundamentally a sketchy aspect of First Strike.
Yes.
Like First Strike on your own turn, or in particular, First Strike when you attack, is so much better of a mechanic in general at low rarity than First Strike all the time.
Tricks that can give it on defense, totally fine. It's also, yeah.
But I think that a card that just has First Strike on defense, it's so brutal that by the time you find out, it's too late.
Yes.
And you get nothing. And Valor is that for everything forever. And it's in a graveyard instead of in play. And it's not like you ever had to announce it. You just discard some cards. You could frequently discard 2 cards and the bottom card is a Valor.
Yeah.
You know how many people just discard 2 cards and the bottom card's a Valor and they sure as hell are not making that one visible?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it doesn't go anywhere. And also,
and nobody has to say anything.
The other 4, for all of their flaws, and they are an intense set of flaws, they all generally err the game towards getting over with.
They do.
And if you're going to make a cycle of cards that's really powerful and sucks, they play like dog shit, that like should never be anywhere near a Magic the Gathering file, at least make it stuff that gets the game over with. Valor is so much more powerful on defense than on offense that like the game doesn't end.
Yeah.
And it's also not even transparent because like First Strike is the type of thing that can get modified by other tricks. Like Wonder and Filth, at least there's the binary of like, well, I have creatures with flying or I don't. I have a swamp or I don't. And this is just, it's not even like that transparent. It's an atrocious design. It would literally play better as lifelink. For as awful as lifelink is to just have in the graveyard all the time, that design would be significantly better than Valor.
I mean, there's a lot of ways you could have executed them differently. But if we're just going to take as a given that they wanted to have this conceit of these cards that just function out of the graveyard, I think the way you're supposed to do it, setting aside power level issues, which is also a thing, and the wisdom of some, but at the very least, I think you're supposed to, when the card is discarded, put it in play as an enchantment or something. You know what I mean? Or you have to do something where it's getting played at the point where you milled it. And then it's got a finale, whatever. There's a lot of technology they have nowadays that they didn't have back then with regards to how to design these cards and actually have them not play horrible.
That gets us to the rares. These are the cherry on top. Load-bearing beams of the set, as mentioned before.
Glory and Genesis?
The Glory was the pre-release foil. They bought into these. These are rare incarnations that have a mana ability associated with doing whatever the thing is.
2 in a white or 2 in a green is not trivial.
It's not trivial.
And you have to declare it.
And they're also, like, for the standards of the time, like, actually reasonable bodies. They got cast.
A 3/3 fire and a 4/4 on the ground?
Yeah, it's like they got cast a fair bit. Glory is white and 2 to give all of your creatures protection of a color on the turn.
Of your choice. Yeah.
Genesis is green 2 colorless to raise dead.
And I like that Genesis is the better of the two, in constructed anyway, because it does play better. I think that I announced that I'm going to just draw a card out of my graveyard is so different than you find out Glory. The nice thing about Glory compared to Valor, because I do think Glory is horrendous with regards to this onboard experience, but at least it costs 2 in a white.
Yeah.
And it's not even just everything, because sometimes not all my creatures are the same color. And if all my creatures are the same color, there was nothing I was going to do anyway.
I also think there's just so spending mana, gates the experience a little bit, and also makes it so that you can talk yourself into, well, I didn't do nothing. If I terminated their creature, then they pick it up with Genesis. It's like, okay, well, they don't have enough mana to replay it this turn, so it's kind of like an unsummon. I could talk, even if it's bad and I missed it, I can talk myself into it. I also think you're just generally a lot more likely to remember the future stuff if I spent mana and announced something. This is not like just passively the new normal, all of my creatures fly for the rest of the game. I'm not saying it's as easy to track as an enchantment, but it's not altogether that different from that in a way that the other incarnations are just, here's what life is now.
And I get that you get to make Graveyard Hate be a little bit more meaningful in this world, where you have these high leverage cards that are worth, and maybe the thought is that, well, we're already priced into people have to pay attention to graveyards. That's just a conceit we're adopting for the set. I do want to give a slight amount of charity to the incarnation cycle insofar as I did have some fun with them, not just because they're powerful, even though that's interwoven with where the fun is, but there's something fun about getting something for nothing.
Yeah.
And the incarnations do deliver on that. Perhaps a little intense, but there is an element of I surprise got you because I discarded a card at instant speed that you didn't know I was going to discard. And now my cards have an ability that is going to really help me.
Yeah, I think all that's there's a kernel of a real thing there. It's just drowned out by the execution on those five being what they are. Very, very intense. And then lastly, that gets us to the wishes. This is a cycle of cards that allow you to tutor for a specific card type that has been removed from the game. Golden Wish, Living Wish, Cunning Wish, Burning Wish, Death Wish. In a constructed context, the rules have changed a little bit over the years, like whether or not you could get something that had been Swords to Plowshares that's been updated at various points. It essentially speaks to the sideboard as being the zone that you're allowed to tutor out of.
These were very fun to think about, and all of them, and there are 5 different puzzles, and each of the puzzles is 5 different puzzles. Mm-hmm. And they're fun if you think about them a lot, or they're fun if you think about them a little.
Yeah.
And even when they are repetitive, they are actually not that repetitive. Like they sometimes open up very exotic and unusual things, and they don't always play out the exact same, even when they are ostensibly increasing consistency for certain things. Arguably, they're a little strong, but maybe that's, you want something to be good, I guess. I could have gone with Cunning Wish not quite being so powerful, but I think that Living Wish and Burning Wish, the incentives are a lot better.
Yeah.
And it's not the end of the world. It's just, I do think that Cunning Wish it wasn't a great time for Cunning Wish to be quite as strong as it was. I think it was very wise to make Golden Wish very modest. And I think that it was very smart making Living Wish being able to hit creatures or land. Mm-hmm. And I think that Death Wish, the story, like something going on there is actually kind of interesting and appealing. And because it is like at the time where you just paid half your life it's an interesting time to consider that you can get whatever cards you want.
Yes.
But you already know that you just lost half your life.
Right.
So yeah, I think these are a masterpiece.
I think I've only played Cunning Wish at the Pro Tour of the 5 that exists. Yeah? I don't think I've ever Burning or Living Wished. It expanded the range of what was possible in a way that it was unlimited fertile ground for building decks and thinking about things. And they also were on they had the whole range of, I'm doing this for value because I want a toolbox of stuff. Living Wish was probably the best of the 5 for that end. And also like setting up combos and loops. Cunning Wish, I think, is the most problematic of the 5 because it theoretically loops with itself in a way that is pretty bad.
Cunning Wish being so strong where it's getting instants and it is an instant, you don't have the same level of risk. Whereas I think frequently Cunning Wish is getting an answer, right? I mean, sometimes it gets the thing that gives you a big advantage, but frequently it's just getting you the perfect answer. With Burning Wish, frequently it's, I have a kill card or 2, and I have a variety of eclectic solutions to problems. Whereas Living Wish, you got a full-on toolbox of different things depending on the circumstance.
Just trying to think of all the deck lists that I wrote down in a notepad. Starting with 4 Living Wish, and then sideboard. Start with 1 Genesis, 1 Volrath Stronghold, 1 Dust Bowl. It's just like, how are the games looking? There's a lot of baggage associated with them. Like, the rules around what it means to be...
That's a good bet.
And also, like, what are the implications of this in a format like Commander? And I don't mean Commander specifically.
The implications are it was the first time. They just banned them right out.
Right. Well, I'm not even saying, like, Commander in the way that we know it. I'm just saying you and I are at our house. We're not tournament players.
And this came up with Ring on a Roof, but hardly anybody had that experience.
It didn't matter because it's so bad.
Well, it's so bad, and there's so few of them made that by the time other people would see it in the case, and they're like, whoa, and you have all these conversations of putting the Ace of Spades in your hand.
Any of these cards are powerful enough and appealing enough in a way, in a low power, we're not playing a format, it's just the cards that we own, where does Living Wish mean I go through my binder or all the cards that I have and find something? Like, that is a question that they sort of hand wave here. If you and I are each playing, I've got Living Wish in my deck and you've got Cunning Wish in your deck, and we're just playing pickup, like, this quickly becomes awful if we're not bound by something.
Why? Aren't you just protected? Like, anybody who's not sophisticated enough to play with sideboards, let them do this. What's bad about it?
If you play the card as written, face up, and you have a, like, not even a significant collection, but just like cards laying around, is the time spent me looking through all of my cards trying to find...
We have to resolve it in a timely fashion.
I don't know. The games of pickup I've played over the years did not involve a lot of resolving things in a timely fashion.
Oh, that's a player error.
Okay.
That
Fair
feels
enough,
to me like
fair
an
enough,
unforced
fair
error.
enough.
Yeah, I know. I think these are especially good for the casual player because I think that it's an increase of power level, but in the sort of way where you're like, yep, if you're a novice, you get time walks and ancestrals sometimes.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But that's fine because anybody where the power level is actually an issue is kind of protected by tournament rules. I just don't think logistically the cost of somebody has to find the dopest shit in the world is bad compared to the story equity of somebody pulls off the dopest shit in the world.
But these are sweet. And they've obviously influenced a ton of designs over the years that also don't quite work in the rules and or require frequent rules updates. But this is a spot where I say it's worth it. These are so cool and aspirational. I'm glad they did them here, and I'm glad that they've done a handful of them over the years. And it all, I mean, I shouldn't say it all starts here because Rear Maroof is kind of the baseline. But in terms of demarcating it on the color of pie and making them price to move, those are two active decisions you have to make to get them to this spot.
There is something kind of dope about the booster tutor experience. I wish they could find a way to do that and construct it and pull it off well besides the digital only. There's something cool about I am going to get to choose from stuff I would normally never play with.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know what it's going to be, but I'm going to choose at a specific spot. And I've got some information about the distribution or whatever. It's more fun to think between 14 cards than it is to draft between 29,000 cards.
Oh, totally. That'll do it for the cycles of judgment. We'll be back in a moment with the bangers. Long list of judgment. Hello and welcome back to the Resleevables Judgment Edition. We're here with some bangers. There's no end. And the reason that we're going to have to draw a line somewhere because as far as I'm concerned, they're all bangers. But let's start with something
young.
Let's start with something with a little bit of meat on the bone here. Talk to me about Cabal Therapy.
I have mixed feelings about Cabal Therapy. Obviously, it's very powerful.
Yes.
And I think it is fair to call it a banger because I think that the ways in which I think you should not do Cabal Therapy these days were not true then. Mm-hmm. I think that for the sensibilities of the time, Cabal Therapy was fine. And I think that it played well enough. It was really fun. It was outrageously skill testing. It was arguably too skill testing. It was definitely a card that the amount of just like, when you can just look into people's souls so that you just blind hit the first Cabal Therapy every time. I played a lot of Cabal Therapy.
I believe it.
I like the incentive of you have some creatures. Mm-hmm. Think 0 mana flashback is, there's some problems there. It's not the end of the world, but there are some issues. Mm-hmm. I think that it gets old sometimes eventually, the package of all the 1 mana discard spells and Cabal Therapy. Cabal Therapy is one of those, it's like, I'm really, really glad we dated years ago. I'm glad also that I'm in a better place in life.
Yes.
We had a ton of fun. We had a lot of great experiences. And I certainly, guilty pleasure, don't mind thinking about the old days when I play a little pre-modern or something.
I wish you nothing but the best. I have some fond memories, but I'm not really looking for that part of my life to be recreated anytime soon.
From a design standpoint, I think it's too intense. The getting multiples and the blind hit. So much power is in the blind hit, which is skill testing, but it's too much. It's so intense to get a free Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
And the second time you Thoughtseize somebody isn't more fun.
I think for me, the breaking point on this card, I do think it's a very intense design and extremely skill testing for better or worse. It assumes you have a certain intimate knowledge of the format.
And it's not skill at Magic necessarily. I mean, there's an overlap.
Yeah.
But there's skill at something.
The thing that really puts it over the line for me into the I don't like this camp is the getting multiple copies. If you were capped at 1, that would be so different than the, particularly because you're often casting the therapy twice. So I therapy away, whatever. And then it turns out your hand has 2 copies of Fact or Fiction and then you're just out of the game. I think the card would play a lot better if it was just you got a copy of the card, your name, not everything.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all in favor of incentives for people to play a diverse mix of cards.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the way this really manifests, because you don't get to control your opening hand very much. You have very mild control over your opening hand.
Right.
And this is happening on turn 1, frequently before you've gotten to play. So it's not like you could have played around it. Mm-hmm. You just have what you drew. And the amount of your incentives being impacted because of Cabal Therapy relative to how much power is impacted by it randomly spiking multiples, it's too insane. And you can be like, well, you should have known that when you were looking at your hand and you're like, oh, it's got 3 factor fictions in it or whatever. And it's like, well, what? Are you going to mulligan your hand of 2 removal spells, or like 2 removal spells, 3 factor fictions, 2 land on the draw? Like what are we talking about here?
Yeah. There's no way. And it's like, okay, so you want me to mulligan against your deck with Cabal Therapy?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll improve things.
Like this is all predicated on Therapy being in your opening hand. Yeah. Come on. All right, Elephant Guide. Masterpiece.
Absolutely. One of the better designs in the set. This is like phenomenal.
Yeah, good enough to play. And extremely synergistic with the phantom creatures.
Definitely.
In a way that's not explicit, and you just figure it out as you go. And a really nice distribution for me of the part of what I'm paying for is enhancing this thing. Part of what I'm paying for is insurance in case you are actually able to remove it.
Yep.
Sweet artwork, good story. Like this one is
dynamic gameplay.
It's awesome.
The fact that you can fizzle it at the right time, so it matters when I play it. And the idea that, I mean, it's very intense, the bounce beating it, but like, it's fine that some of the removal spells are better against it than others. I think this one's just such a masterpiece, and I'm glad they do more of this kind of stuff now. Lava darts.
It's a nice one.
And remember, in context.
Yeah.
With the phantoms.
Mm-hmm. So it's
Threshold.
I love this one. I've played with this one so much, and not to spoil too much, it will receive one of my awards at the end of the show. I really love that it is something that incentivizes burn decks to play with creatures and not more burn spells. The rate on this card is actually quite modest if all you care about is going upstairs.
Yep.
But if you've like got some 1-drops and you care about getting birds and elves out of the way and playing something of a deeper, more interactive game, it's really, really strong. And I just love that the incentives there are so much better.
And as far as Fire Blast go, this couldn't be more the opposite.
Yeah.
But in a good way. I mean, like Fire Blast, the sacrificing a land meant nothing. It's just over. It's just the gate of whether or not it can be over. And Lava Dart, on the other hand, it's actually like a tactical thing. Like, I'm going to have to play with 1 less mana, but I got rid of something, or I did 1 damage to something. Maybe I stacked with something.
And it's so satisfying to Fire Blast kill someone with Lava Dart. And just the last little... Fire Blast is frequently like, yeah, they were at 4... That's actually like kind of a lot of life. Or like they were at 8 and I had 2 of them. It's like this, I've done this a lot. And I've got my indulgences. This feels kind of like cheating. Lava Dart is, well, I got the other 19 in some other way. And this just happened to be the, last piece of the puzzle. It's very satisfying.
Talk to me about Browbeat.
So this was an interesting one in that they did a lot of this in the block. We talked about this. Blazing Salvo, Longhorn Firebeast, Book Burning is in the set as well. To me, it was like it reveals what's going on here, which is like, why is Blazing Salvo not powerful? Doesn't this read like 2 good deals? And that's the kind of the case with a lot of this stuff is like, well, what I don't understand how it could be bad. And the way that the Punisher cards kind of break down a little bit is when the options are too disparate. Because it's very rare for the game to be going in such a way where it's like, I really care about my life total that much and also really care about you not getting the threshold right now. Like that is the book burning thing. And it's just like, that's parlaying a lot of different stuff. And it's the times where that's good is going to select for the moments where you were winning anyway, right? So why is Browbeat the strongest? And it's because the options are pretty narrow in terms of their difference contextually. If you're
Right.
playing a burn deck, draw 3 versus deal 5 is like, I am actually happy with both of those options because both of those options are about the same for me. And that's something that's so different about Browbeat than all those other designs. I try to think about these moments along the way of like, where did I start getting, consciously or not, some ideas about being a game designer or like, what is about this? And Browbeat was super instructive for me because I initially just dismissed it as like, oh, it's another Brazen Salvo, it's another Longhorn Firebeast, right? I can appreciate that draw 3 cards is better than having a 3/2, but it's all the same thing. And then playing against decks that had Browbeat with the cards around them and being like, wait a minute, this one's different. Like this is actually, I'm not saying this is like, this is the most competitive deck or whatever, but it's not Longhorn Firebeast, it's not Blazing Salvo. What's going on here that's making this different? And it's like, oh, because the actual range of choices is similar enough that it is actually 2 good deals some amount of the time.
Right. Yeah, because I think Browbeat is a little bit more like you get the one you don't want out of the Suburban or the Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
But they got 4 wheels.
Right.
You know,
and
you're getting the Suburban when you don't really want a thing that quite that big, and you're getting the Mustang when you could have used some extra space. And, I get it. But like, that's a different experience than what it's like where you're like, okay, we're going to go out into the jungle and I'm just going to get, between a kayak or a hang glider, whichever is least opportune at this moment. So like you're at the water and you just have a hang glider and like, what am I going to do with this?
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a reverse banger. Talk to me about Urnam Jin at Rare.
I love, like, I don't love it at Rare. I would have preferred it uncommon. But I love Urnam Jin in this set. Yeah. And, it's got some of that Singer Vampire action that was going on. It's a little weird that Sarah Angel isn't here. Like, if you're going to have Singer Vampire and then do Urnam Jin,
right?
Like, own it, But also, I think Urnam Jin was a lot better than Singer Vampire.
It's a lot stronger. Still not, like, good enough to play.
It wasn't embarrassing. It wasn't right to play.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly in a set with Phantom Centaur. But, like, I didn't mind Urnam Jin. I don't know. You seem to really frown on, is this another one of those just the classic, tarnishing the legacy?
It's got to be some of that. I also think that, like, Urnam Jin's obviously, like, a classic, and we have a lot of memories associated with it. Players of our era, seeing it does, like, evoke a certain response. It's not really the most green drawback. Like, I feel like it's kind of off message, and as much as you can clown on Singer Vampire not being up to date or like on rate, or I got this at uncommon, why is it a rare now? It is like a pretty evocative black design. It's a vampire, and then when it feeds, it gets bigger.
Yeah, but giving your opponent Forest Walk, at least it's Forest Walk, right? Like, it is green a thing, right? And what's interesting with Urnam Jin here is twofold. Urnam Jin's caring about green stuff, it is a little different in a world where there's so much green-white is incentivized. It changes the puzzle slightly. But also, this set has a weird amount of strangling of land.
Yes.
It has bouncing land, strangling land, sacrificing land. There's so many ways to get around Urnam Jin's drawback. So if you just, for some reason, already believe... Now, I will say that if Urnam Jin is why we have to have all those cards, heinous. I don't know why 7% of the set is dedicated to getting rid of one of your own land, other than it kind of sometimes reeks of Urnam. But, like, if you just take as a given the rest of the set, it actually plays really well here. Talk to me about Riftstone Portal. This is the land that when it's in the vein of the incarnations, but it's not invasive the same way. Riftstone Portal just, you just have unlimited green and white. Your stuff makes green and white as long as you have this land in your graveyard.
It's a little bit of a weirdo at uncommon, but I actually love it here, as odd as it is.
Yeah.
It's like, It does match the like flashback threshold sort of theming of it.
Yeah.
And I do think there's like a pretty good story there. And in terms of expressing that it's like a green-white set, you can't really do a whole lot better than this. I kind of like it as a contrast to the Tainted Lands in the previous set. I like that there's one here versus like a bunch in the previous one.
Well, there's 3 here, but they're each different.
Right, yeah.
Riftstone Portal, Croson Verge, and Nantuko Monastery.
Riftstone,
and I like them all.
Yeah, Riftstone Portal's definitely the fanciest of the bunch.
But I like that there's such a range.
Yes, yeah.
Nantuko Monastery being the biggest creature land ever at the time. That's cool.
Awesome.
And Croson Verge, you know, that's a very green and white sort of way to do it.
Also speaks to Threshold, but not nearly on the nose in the way that the other 2 do.
And Riftstone Portal and Croson Verge and Nantuko Monastery are all very, you're not just stacking them all in the same deck.
Right.
So
I think the lands here are really cool.
Definitely. And they give you more stuff to think about with green and white instead of just giving in to the all, I have a bunch of creatures and I put stats on them.
Yeah. And I do, again, the contrast also with Cabal Coffers. Of like, here's this like singularly powerful, very linear thing versus green and white getting this array of different kind of stuff that, like you said, doesn't necessarily attack onto each other. I think that a place where the set could have gotten into trouble and didn't was, all right, this is the green-white set. We're coming off the black set. Everything we're going to do is kind of like mirroring what we did in Torment, just making it green-white this time instead of black. And I love that the lands are like very, very different from one another. That part is very cool.
Yeah, and you're not doing there's 3 tri-lands. You know?
Yeah.
There's the green, white, blue, green, white, red, and maybe green, white, black, you know?
Yeah. And all of these got their day in the sun and constructed.
Of course.
But none of them were ever like an issue. It was just like they landed kind of perfectly.
Yeah, even when they've been part of decks that were problems, it was not their fault.
Yeah.
You know, Riftstone Portal's been in some Dredge decks, and Croson Verge has been in some Mirari's Wake's decks, but that does bring us to Mirari's Wake. What do you think about this one? Gauntlet of Might, but for 5, but you're in a green-white deck.
It is an awesome design to do here.
I think
if you want to, this is a green-white set, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I do like a little bit of, I guess something where it gets lost in translation a little bit is there is enough rate in personal mana flare that the +1/+1 is kind of innocuous or not really part of what's going on.
Not
but
enough
it did come up. It did come up. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it came up. It mostly came up with stuff like my Firecap Blitz is going to kill you very easily.
Yeah.
But, it also, you're making your 1/1 flyers 2/2s. This is something.
Yeah. Or your Crush of Worm. Now I have 7/7s instead of 6/6s, whatever.
I do think that Moment's Peace and Cunning Wish dampened the experience.
Yeah.
But generally, I like Mirari's Wake, and I do think that probably, I would prefer if you got 2/3 as much mana and twice as much stats or something, 50% more stats.
Yeah.
But I think it's not Mirari's Wake's fault, even though I do think that Mirari's Wake ended up being a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The strategy, not the card.
I got a banger I want to ask you about. Fledgling Dragon.
Hell yeah.
It's so good.
Of course.
So
a dragon whelp that becomes a Shivan dragon.
Yes.
Such a great story.
And I also
I wish more of the Threshold cards were this.
Exactly. I think what it's tapping into is part of it is like the name and the art. Some of it is the way the keywords are split up. So many of the Threshold stories are just like arbitrary and mechanical. All right, you got to 7 cards. This is different. And this one is like, no, your baby dragon's a Shivan now. Right. You had a baby dragon. Now it is a Shivan dragon. It's just like, it's such a different presentation, even though this is also just a collection of stuff. It's just like, here's some stats and some new ability that you get as a way of getting Threshold. But the evocativeness is just on a completely different level than most of the designs here.
This, I think, is tapping into the nostalgia in such a better way than the Urnham. Because even though Urnham is there's some nostalgia there, you're not riffing on it in a way that's like that, this is so clearly hitting that, that little receptor in your brain that has the nostalgia with Shivan.
Yeah.
Ding! And you get and it's actually satisfying. Quiet speculation. Wow, did this get people talking at the time? Being able to search up 3 flashback cards, people lost their shit. This was just one of the most talked about. It's got to be busted, broken. in part, I think, more than anything, because if you like deep analysis is part of the equation, but by far the loudest part that got people initially was you can go get Roar, and for 3 and a green, you get a 6/6. So this is like a 2-mana spell that, if nothing else, you can ancestral for 6/6s for 4.
In the block constructed context of I go get a deep analysis and a Roar of the Worm and something else,
Right.
whatever, that was the case that people were the most concerned about. In like the blue-green madness shell, the way that it actually played out was that matchup, the mirror match, was so fast, and there was specifically so much pressure on your second turn to do something, a mongrel Nakwamiba, like get the game moving forward, that ended up not being very good there. It did show
it was okay. It wasn't as good as like, it wasn't the first, second, or third best thing.
Yeah.
But it was a viable thing, especially on turn 3.
I don't know,
turn 4.
but also the terms of engagement changed so much with the set with Wonder, where that was just like, kind of the whole thing. It did end up being quite good in a variety of other decks, including Mirari's Wake again.
Go get Moment's Peace and Moment's Peace and Moment's Peace.
That
or
is
too deep get good deep analysis and a bunch of Moment's Pieces.
Yeah, which there's a lot of different ways to draw cards and fog.
I do think it's dope to have a tutor that gets you a modest toolbox and then sets up some 6/6s that you're like paying for and their tokens and stuff happens. And I don't know that Aether Burst needed more help, but like you're in a world where you've got Aether Burst, which really limits the effectiveness of stacking multiple roars. I wish less of these things were sick blue things that are foiled by a sick blue thing.
Yeah, that's where it breaks down for me on a lot of this stuff. Is just like it not doing a mono black set or doing a green white set goes beyond we're going to make a lot of black cards or we're going to make a lot of green and white cards. It's also about the things you do not do. Like, do we actually create an ecosystem where of the 10 best cards in the set, 7 of them are green and white? And this is a place where I think Magic, it breaks down so much during this era. We're doing Invasion. It's all this gold stuff. What are the most powerful cards? Fact or Fiction, exclude, Repulse. It's like just unable to help themselves. No matter what the ostensible theme of the set is, it is undergirded by busted blue cards.
You gotta understand, there's a sickness that happens when you design Magic cards.
Totally.
Seed Time. There's a card that exists.
This is cool.
Hell yeah.
This is really cool. And it's like, again, we're actually doing the thing that we're trying to suggest we're doing.
I wish that there was a Seed Time in white that beat red the way that Seed Time in green beats blue.
Yeah.
Mean it, you know?
People lost their mind about this when it was spoiled.
Oh, yeah. And people played it a whole bunch.
Yeah. It was never really that good.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't unplayable all of the time, but it wasn't that good.
Yeah, part of the problem was that the blue decks of that era, often being on the other side of them, was take another turn was not materially different than draw a card. So that's how it was balanced.
And it's like your card, it's like, okay, I'm going to counterspell your Seed Time.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And often these decks had incentives to keep you from having a whole bunch of creatures. So it wasn't like you got the super sick Time Walk turns that often.
Yeah.
But it's a cool design. Dude. Shaman's Trance. Your opponent can't cast spells out of their graveyard, and you can cast spells out of their graveyard as though they were in your graveyard. I love it, because you're thinking it's a Yawgmoth's Will out of their graveyard until you get to the end and you realize, but I can't play spells out of my own graveyard. What do you mean play it as though I...
Yeah, it's not the cleanest template. This is one that I just sort of bracketed off and forgot about, partially because it didn't seem very good. And then also because I didn't really know how it worked.
Isn't this emblematic of Judgment, though? Is that if you're young and innocent, you can just bracket off 30% of the set where you just don't think about it?
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of stuff in this. There are a lot of cards in this set where you're like, that's the design?
Mm-hmm.
And you probably just don't think about them because you're thinking of the ones that are like priced.
You mean like Planar Chaos?
Absolutely. I mean like Planar Chaos. First of all, that's not the most chaotic chaos. As far as chaos goes, That's not what chaos is. There's some variance, but that's not chaos.
No. It also, of all of like the coin flipping sort of stuff, this one plays really badly.
Very badly.
Really badly. So I play this and I pass.
And then we flip a coin to see if we're done.
And then you're like, all right, I guess I'm just going to wait this out, right? Because part of the reason to wait it out is, well, I can't cast anything either, presumably, unless I have something that's manipulating the coin flips. So we go back to my turn, and
which didn't exist at the time.
If I win the flip, then we just do the same thing again.
Well, and the thing is actually just the prophecy mechanic where nobody's cards work.
Right. It's really
like
bad.
When you play a card, we flip a coin to see if it just goes away for nothing.
How about Iron Shell Beetle?
Love it.
Me too.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely. My only issue with Iron Shell Beetle is I wish they would have been a little more aggressive with it. I mean, it's fine. If maybe the Beetle's not the one to be more aggressive, maybe just have this one at common because it also plays so clean. And so, but I also would have really liked if they had made an Iron Shell Beetle in price to move for constructed.
Yeah, okay, well... thanks for the backhanded insult. You didn't even know that I was, but the Masters Gateway, I know I've talked about this before, but if you haven't heard about it before, this is the greatest tournament ever for players of exactly my ability level. It's a tournament with just like 120 me's, just people doing God knows what with their life.
There aren't 120 yous in the world.
Yeah, that's slightly different versions of me. And I've won at least one round at this point. I did beat someone. And so the Masters Gateway is also single elimination. So it's not like you have a Swiss tournament, you come to top 8. No, it's just like we just go until there's 4, that's it, and then they're in. Play against Noah Boken. Noah is on Psychotog.
Tracks.
And
you're playing red green stuff.
Red green, Wild Mongrel, and friends. I win game 1. Noah wins game 2. Game 3, I'm on the play. I don't remember all the details, but I did have Iron Shell Beetle in this deck. So I go land, go. Noah goes Polluted Delta, go. I go turn 2, Iron Shell Beetle. He picks it up and reads it. He's not seen this card before. And he's like, so it doesn't come in as a 2/2, right? And I'm like, no, it's a 1/1. Trigger goes on and then the counter goes. And he goes, all right, hold on 1 second. He sacrifices his Polluted Delta, trigger on the stack, Ghastly Demise, the Iron Shell Beetle, 1 card in the graveyard. He also gave me this look of like, what is this doing in your deck? And I said...
A fair question.
I said, they can't all be Wild Mongrel, man. I go on to lose an extremely close game. And it's like, if my Iron Shell Beetle was literally Grizzly Bears, I would have beaten Noah and moved on.
Yeah.
But because it was the Beetle. So yeah, I feel that too. Wishing the Beetle was just a little bit better, you know? Not a lot, just a little bit. A 2/2 that may put a counter on something. That would have been plenty, you know? But it went the way that it went. It's just a fun card.
Oh yeah.
It's a fun card to be good. It's also kind of good against the Phantom cards because it's a nice chump blocker, nice chump attacker, depending on how you spread it all around. Love the Beetle.
Grisly Fate.
I think the flashback threshold thing is a little odd. Like it does start to like, what's going on here exactly? How many bears do I get? Whatever. I do think it's a fun design. I appreciate in this block there's so many weird bear stuff going on. It's not really made totally clear to me why, but I find it to be delightful. Card was pretty strong, like actually showed up in decks sometimes and like sideboards and stuff. It's a sweet one.
Gortusk Firebeast. Is this card a masterpiece or is this card definitely a masterpiece?
It's definitely a masterpiece. It's a little weird to me to put it in the same set as Ember Shot.
I think that's an Ember Shot problem.
I do think it's an Ember Shot problem too.
There's 4 more burn cards that just cost an outrageous amount of mana in this set.
This is like the Lightning Surge.
There's also the Surge. Absolutely. There's so many cards in this block that are just like burn spells that cost 5 to 9 that deal like 3 to 7 damage.
You could argue that Firecat Blitz is part of that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I gotta say, I love cards that are, let's call it modest on rate. And you can kind of go, well, I'm not going to play my Gore-Tusk Firebeast like as my 23rd card. I got other options. This one's a little weak. But then there's the other way that it goes, which is like, in its own way, this does get better in multiples. Mm-hmm. Like if I play the first one, they are not going to want to see the second one. Mm-hmm. And if I play the second one, they're not going to play the third one. So
I've been a part of some serious Gore-Tusk domino action where you're like, God, I can't. And you're like, once you add the first one, and then you're like, well, the second one's better.
Yeah.
And the third, and usually you're only in this dilemma if your deck's not very good. Mm-hmm. And if your deck's not very good, sometimes you kind of need to have some variance in a way that
a dimension.
Something you can do.
Can't just show up with nothing but gray ogres. You got to have something going on.
Gore-Tusk Firebeast is a very satisfying card to win with. There's a good kind of pain of losing to it. It doesn't feel like bullshit. You did kind of deserve this.
What was going on that you couldn't end this before this?
And then the Gore-Tusk Firebeast is so dope with the Punisher cards.
Yes.
It's so good. You can't pretend that you could. You chose to take 5 instead of just losing your 4-drop to my Blazing Salvo.
So really, it's, everyone gets to be in 2 camps. You get to be in the I don't play Gore-Tusk Firebeast camp, or you could be in the I will play approaching infinity number of Gore-Tusk Firebeasts. You just settle into the 2 range. I was a second person
it's a backup
myself.
point because you don't want to, because the real thing is like the Buddha said, the middle way. When the Buddha was talking about playing Gore-Tusk Firebeast, it's not that you want to play the Firebeast.
Okay, keep going.
Sometimes
hand waving that, but keep going.
Sometimes you accept that the Firebeast is a way of life. And once you accept that, many things start to flow your way, like the second and third Firebeast.
It's just, if you had to make, rate every card on this spectrum of or percentile or whatever of the games that this card has appeared, has it made the game more fun or less fun or ambiguous or whatever? I think Gore-Tusk Firebeast is a 99th percentile
Extremely
design.
Good, yeah.
It's like everyone has a good time, win or lose, with that card involved.
Yeah.
Because it only selects for games that are a little choppy anyway.
It's a very choppy card.
It's a very choppy card.
It's a very choppy card. It's got some play to it. It's at a beautiful power level too, because if it's too good, it's not as satisfying to be playing around it. One of the things I love about the Firebeast is the amount of times I played around it when my opponent probably almost surely doesn't have it.
Yeah,
and my opponents, I can tell they're I get bought a little bit of breathing room because they're playing around the fire. And that's why it's so important and so valuable to publicly play Firebeasts sometimes, because people need to know it's in your range.
Exactly. I Firebeasted with little provocation. That was it. It was also kind of like quietly a feature of the format that I really loved. Is like, you're playing against some red deck, you're taking some hits. It looks like they're kind of flooding out a little bit, maybe. They don't have a lot of action. And it's like, okay, so there is for sure too much Kamal Sledge, Volley of Boulders, Scorching Missile, Kamal Sledge, Gore-Tusk Firebeast, Ember Shot.
All of it.
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And it'd probably be a little bit more slot efficient for the block as a whole to reappropriate some of those designs into something that did something different. But it's like, you got in this spot all the time where it's like, all right, my opponent's deck looks pretty shitty. And so they might be flooding out.
Right.
Or
I
am in range for
oh my God.
An endless number of options.
I can't tell you the number of times where my opponent, where I take the hit, like my opponent does a horrible attack and they lose 2 creatures and I lose 1. And they got me to 13 and I can just see the twinkle in their eye and I'm like, damn it. They've got 2 Firebeasts and a sledge. I can just tell there's 2 Firebeasts and a sledge.
Post-combat, they go, land number 6, Scorching Missile you. And it's like, oh no.
No.
Yeah. The Odyssey block is, because it's like one thing when it's like, there's a rolling thunder here. You know, that card's really, really powerful. And also there's a good chance they would have gotten me with it anyway because it's so modal or whatever. Odyssey block is on a completely different level with just the rogues gallery of extremely bad face damage your opponent could pop off if the game went a certain way.
Okay. Life gain, counteracting all this, Ancestors Chosen.
I actually do kind of appreciate it as part of the range. Like, something that I do like about this set is they do a pretty good job within the green-white schism of some of this is about a short game, some of this is about a medium game, some of this is about a long game, or you've got some funky graveyard thing going on.
Yeah.
They kind of touch all the bases a little bit. And this is a cool one in the you're going really big or you're doing something with your graveyard experience.
I agree. I do think it's weird to do with Ancestors Tribute or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that card is a horrible design. Like, I think that the amount where it's like, okay, gain 20, then gain 32, and it costs like 7 plus 9 or whatever, right? Or 10 or what. The amount that this card actually has some play to it. Mm-hmm. And like, it's not just a spell where you wait till you're about to die, because it is also a 4/4.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard body, kind of, you know? And you need to have an anti-Gore-Tusk.
Right, exactly. It's the yin and the yang. Talk to me about Sylvan Safekeeper.
So Ule was originally, his invitational card, he was really late to even getting it made or whatever, because he wasn't playing Magic for a period, and so like he wasn't even like corresponding with them, and so like it got made much later than normally.
Was this during his like mandatory military service time or something?
Actually, it might be.
Yeah, or something.
It does line up with the time of when he would, But they eventually made it, and the cards certainly aged well. Partly, I think the whole 0 mana, protecting your stuff, sacrificing land. Like, there's a lot of things that scale well long term.
It's interesting that,
but it actually played well in context.
Yeah, it was kind of sweet at the time because, largely just the reductive summary is the removal was so much better than creatures that something that was really good against removal and also implied that you were playing with a bunch of other creatures was like, a breath of fresh air, let's say. Mm-hmm. It's also notable to me that as much as Magic creatures in general have been power crept in the last 25 years, this remains best in slot for a certain type of strategy or combo deck or whatever. And I don't personally believe in the experience of this happening all the time, but as sort of a legacy player, I think it props up good stuff that the format, could use more of.
Ule's original invitational card that he submitted at the invitational? Because this is definitely nothing like his original card. They talked about it and worked on it together to get to this, but like his original invitational card was World of Bums. It was an enchant world for red.
Okay. And that was it?
Yeah.
Was it just an anti-concordant crossroads, another void the abyss measure, or?
Well, you could make that story up. I think that I think Ule's got some Loki trickster in him. And I don't think he was designing the card in good faith. But I also don't think he was thinking necessarily about winning, because it's the first invitational, who knows what's going to, But I think he was having some fun with them.
Yeah, there is kind of a way that I feel like of all the old invitational players, there are kind of two camps for the card design. One of, this would be such an honor to have my design and my likeness on a card that, in theory, WotC is going to at least make reasonable on power level. They're not.
He was the first. You don't know that.
Yeah. And then there's the second camp, which is just like, this is for nerds. Nerds do this.
Well, there's a third camp, like Kai and John's original cards, where they were both like describing their fantasy. Kai's original invitational card was just, telepathy, where your opponent has to play.
Sack to draw a card.
But it was telepathy, but also had you use sack to counter target spell.
Oh, counter spell. I forgot. I thought it was draw a card.
No, it's just blue telepathy, blue mana enchantment, play with your hand. Like your opponent, you can just see your opponent's hand. And whenever you want, you can pay blue and sack this thing to counter target spell.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's like, if you're a player as great as Kai was, I believe that design actually has to negatively impact your win equity over time. Because a card that's like that busted and takes away so much of your range to be able to maneuver, I think that like Joe Blow FNM wins a lot more against Kai with that card as a top 3 card in standard than other options.
So when asked about, like when asked, like, why do you want to pay to like see your opponent's hand? Don't you know what's in their hand anyway? Mm-hmm. And he's like, yes, I want them to know that I know. But okay, in this set, what about Morality Shift? You don't know this one.
Not off the top. I put my laptop down just in case we got some deep cuts.
Yeah. So Morality Shift, I'll show you because this one's a reader. But basically, you're going to flip your graveyard.
Oh, that's the graveyard becomes the deck and vice versa?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that works.
Exchange your graveyard and library, then shuffle your library. So you just take the 2 piles, and you have to like take the upright pile and turn it upside down with one hand. It's very ableist, but take the other pile and flip it upright. The upright one is now your graveyard, and the upside down one you now shuffle.
The thing is, it's not clear. It's not clear that your library becomes a face-up graveyard. On read, it actually like there's a reading where it's just like your library is now a face-down graveyard.
Exchange your graveyard and library.
Yeah, the piles of cards. Doesn't say anything about the orientation. Shuffle your library makes it clear that that's a face-down operation because that's the only way you shuffle.
So you think that your graveyard is just your deck is face up now?
No, I think that it's not clear that your new graveyard, your previous library, is flipped over.
You think your graveyard is face down?
It's ambiguous to me.
You were a child. Okay. Suture Ghoul. Suture Ghoul's main claim to fame is that there were many instant win kill combos because it was the most effective way to have a creature that counts as having 20 power.
Yes.
But it was fine. It was mostly innocuous. Yeah. Like as far as this kind of stuff goes.
I also don't think it was there was that much to do with it at launch, right? It was like Dragon's Breath was a big part of that equation of it being.
Well, Dragon's Breath changed the equation once it became haste.
Yeah.
But there were still already things even at launch because you could still fling it. So we were just Hermit Druid fling,
Yeah.
But it's very different playing it out of your graveyard too. But that part of that is that this set has anger.
Yeah.
And so like that was one thing that people were doing even from the beginning. I don't know about this whole test of endurance. Like the fact that there's 2 different alternate win, at least test of endurance is like a more appealing thing. Like the whole, the green one where you have to have 20 creatures.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like that has the same allure. At least the white one, the incentives are bad, but it's got a attractive dream.
And I wish that.
And then those are people, somebody who gained 50 life is who you want to be able to get it over with.
Yeah, no, I totally, I just wish, I just don't think there's that much design space under this condition. You win the game. And
to do 5 in 3 sets.
And all of it is just have a big number of a thing.
Yeah.
If part of the distribution of these designs was like a coalition victory type of design that was more about wide than up on this one axis, I would have a lot more.
Well, it's so weird that it's 20 for 4 of them and then it's 250 for blue.
I think there's a level of maybe you think you've tapped into something with Battle of the Wits and then you start cranking out the grimaces. like
I love your infatuation with Grimace.
Yeah. I feel like Battle of Wits I don't love it, but it is a hamburglar.
How do you feel about Barbarian Bully?
Oh God.
So the Barbarian Bully is another discard at random.
And you get
the +2/+2.
So I think
but your opponent can take 4. So it's got everything. It's got the 0 cost discard outlet. It's got the pump ability when you don't want it. It's a Punisher. It's a random discard. There's just so much. And yet it actually played kind of decent.
So I am not the biggest fan of 0 mana, discard a card at random, output is also unknown. There's just a lot of paralysis. Now, the other side of that is this card was not weak and limited.
No.
And there is a certain level of whatever my opponent chooses, I'll just do it again. So it does relieve the stress of not knowing what's going to happen all the time.
Wait, next turn.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun with this.
Definitely. I did too. I thought it played really well. I think this is one of those examples of how you can't always tell because sometimes the stuff is more than the sum of the parts. Like, I don't think that this, like, some cards work well as a one shot and others repeated. I think they could have got more mileage out of some punishers that were repeated. On like the tribal stuff, like the Dwarven Blood Boiler and the Soul Catcher's Airy. What is even happening there?
No clue. And these are going to be some not the good award winners when we get to that momentarily.
Okay, 3 more here. Envelop and or Mental Note. Like, where do you fit on the...
Oh, the envelope? You stuff it in the envelope? Love
Envelop.
It. No, but we called it envelope.
Got it.
If you got it someone with it, you stuffed it in the envelope.
Sure.
Yeah, love it. Great. Good place, right time. Great stuff.
Great spot for a 1-cost card. And, you know, power level wise, it's not the strongest, but it was really appropriate at the time and the incentives were really good. Mental Note, I don't love. I don't hate compared to a lot of things in this vein, but it was, you know, it was a little swingy, the amount of I flipped my roar or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was a little snowbally with the amount that my Werebears and Nimble Mongoose are, you know. But
it's a pretty crazy, like, this and Quiet Speculation to me are pretty crazy. Like, if you're doing the wishes and you just say, okay, Cunning Wish is kind of getting a pass here to some extent, that's interesting to me, a reasonable decision to make. Mental Note and Quiet Speculation are like, we're subsidizing blue in the same way that we've subsidized blue in the same previous 2 sets at a very high rate. What are the odds that this completely crowds out the green-white stuff we're ostensibly going for? Lack of discipline.
How about the execution of Flaring Pain?
To me, it's like a little bit odd as a flashback design, but I can also appreciate wanting to backstop solitary confinement a little bit beyond the fact that it's a flashback spell. I guess I don't know exactly what you mean by the execution.
So Flaring Pain is a flashback card. You know, is this thing I don't mind this thing being a thing sitting in the graveyard. And then Flaring Pain against Moment's Peace, I think was a satisfying get.
Totally.
I could have stood for Flaring Pain to be stronger. It's tough. It's a balancing act, but I think having some counterplay for some of this stuff, particularly like the phantoms and stuff, is important. One of the things that I worry about keeps me up at night. We're gonna gloss over the sheer amount of heinousness going on by not talking about all this random stuff. Rapid fire. What do you think? Ear-splitting rats.
Not very much purpose.
Venomous vines.
Not a ton of purpose.
What about Thriss Nantuku Primus?
Okay, so if you actually want me to bag on a card that would like showed up and was like an important part of the set, Arcane Teachings. Wrong place, wrong time. That one bothers me a little bit.
I don't like that one at low rarity. I like the design.
I don't
like it at this spot though.
Yeah, this spot I think there is a cool, because so much of the pinging Magic's history at this point is that, like, the stats suck. And it's kind of cool to actually get it in a place where, do I want to attack for a lot or have the option of plus ping?
Right.
That's all great. Unlike Torment, where at lower rarities, it's like, holy moly, the black cards are legit. It does strike a tone of this is where the power in the set is at lower rarity. This has the best common in the set for limited, which by an amount. I think really, if your experience with the set was a lot of draft and sealed, it more than any other card in the set, in my opinion, damaged the conceit that this was a green-white set.
Cephalid Constable?
Oh, I love the Constable.
A little snowbally.
A little bit, sure.
You ever put an elephant guide on that?
Just have a time.
Exoskeletal Armor?
This is, again, a design that I appreciate. It is like, okay, so we're kind of tapping into Aspect of the Wolf a little bit. It's an homage. It is part of the tranche of cards that implies graveyard matters. I'm doing something that's a bit of a deeper game, but the payoff is something that you typically associate more with like the middle, or the extreme end. Maybe a little weird, same set, same rarity as Elephant Guide.
See, I like it as a compliment to Elephant Guide because I think you want to have more than just one of that kind of thing going on. And I think the Elephant Guide is so straightforward. It's nice to have the other one be fancier. I love this card here because I think that it fits into a bunch of the stuff, like the graveyard stuff, but in an organic way that's fresh in a way, you know?
Yeah.
And I wish they did a little bit more of this stuff because this is just like a card.
Right.
But also, it fits the themes and the mechanics, and also it speaks to the green-white stuff. And
what about the Dwarf Driller?
Dude, what about the Dwarven Driller?
I had so much fun playing with this card. It's just like... So
it is a Punisher.
Well, first of all, 2 good options. I'm having a good time no matter what. The second is... It is a pretty, in the way that I appreciate arcane teachings, it is a pretty stimulating, do I want to do it now or do I want to block? I have the threat of blocking with it. Because like if they are priced into sacrificing a land, you really want to do that on your turn. But if you think it's ambiguous, it could go a different way, or maybe... you have concerns about getting them to threshold. You wait until the end of their turn, so that way if they sack a land, then at least they didn't have threshold on their turn. I drilled day and night. This was one of my... It wasn't even that good. And it's also...
not that good?
It wasn't that good.
It wasn't that playable.
Well, it wasn't like... It's like a... So if you assume that you want to top off your curve with Gortusk Firebeast, what you would like to do is play like spiritually adjacent cards along the way, because that's
like
how you
Barbarian Bully.
Yeah, Barbarian Bully. That's how you get the.
But they can't all be Barbarian Bullies.
Exactly. That's how you get the force multiplier on the Firebeast at the top of the curve, or the Kamal Sledge or whatever. And this is like a really good. Like if they want to play a deep game with you, this thing is really good at like. That's a good angle of attack.
This has so many cards like Centaur Rootcaster. Like, it's fine. Yes, okay. I'm not even talking about I'm not talking about the power level or whatever. It's just, what does this have to do with anything?
Sure. Yeah.
Not everything is the thing, but like, who asked for this?
Yeah.
Commander Isha is sweet. 2/4 flying pro creature.
Pro creature.
Yeah.
Cool card to do.
Battle Screech.
Battle Screech was...
That's actually an interesting one.
Yeah, and a little bit of a sleeper. And
yeah.
It's nice that there's like this incentive just to be bursty with it, but it also insulates you against sweeping a little bit. So sometimes you want to just do the one and leave it for later, but it's not easy to fire it back up if you get swept.
Sudden Strength, because I would like Sudden Strength, but this isn't the set for it. It's just like a random cantrip that nobody asked for in a spot where it doesn't like play particularly well.
Well, I think it's just, here's a reasonably powerful green common.
Yeah, but this isn't the way that, like, wouldn't it be so much better if it was Giant Growth?
Yeah, of course.
But like for play, like, you know what I mean? Like it would play well. Then it's in your graveyard. Guilt Feeder. I like Guilt Feeder in this set because I think that it's tempting to just make black unappealing all the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a flaw. And I think Guilt Feeder is actually a sweet way to make an appealing black card without stealing the spotlight at all.
You mean like the Masked Gorgon?
Masked Gorgon's a hell of a draft card.
That is, yeah. Someone dies real fast.
Oh, yeah. Spelljack. Masterpiece.
Masterpiece. One of the first cards I could ever remember in like a sealed PTQ playing around. Like having not seen it from my opponent before, just being like turn 6. They're like, go. And I was like, it's just like, I'm ahead a little bit. And something's up.
Something smells fishy.
Something's up.
Silver Seraph. It's a little bland, but it was fine.
Yeah.
You know, and I appreciate them having the courage to make some expensive creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Chastise.
Love a Chastise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as if you're going to have some of these expensive things, at least Chastise, I feel like it's got some play to it and some purpose and context. There's a bunch of weird stuff like Web of Inertia.
Scalplexus. Scalplexus is a weird...
Dude, that guy, that's a weirdly powerful card.
Weirdly powerful, yes.
Like, you have to really think it through, but then you're like, ugh.
Yeah. No, the first time that you get hit by it and you realize
that's going to
think
think through what's the average amount.
Oh, yeah.
Because you lose and you're like, did I get unlucky? No, that's intense.
It's like it's kind of hard to get too lucky or too unlucky with it.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how the math washes out on that one.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. What's that clock they have now that when you have 1,000 counters, you can do like 1,000 damage or you win?
Yeah.
You know how long it takes to kill with that?
No.
7 turns.
Okay.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It takes 7 turns. What do you mean it takes 7 turns? No, it takes 7 turns. But it's up to 1,000. It has doubling, and it's arithmetic and multiplicative and yeah, but it takes 7 turns.
7 turns.
Because of the sheer amount of times where double so greatly eclipses the plus and any amount of relevancy. I'm not saying it's impossible to like find scenarios where you end up saving a turn or losing a turn based on the play.
Yeah.
You can really trust it takes 7 turns. Finally, what's up with Aven Warcraft? To me, it's a threshold spell where you play instant +0/+2 to your team, but your guys get protection from if you have threshold. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's like not a satisfying get.
Yeah.
But like some cards, it's satisfying to get more of the same, like the Fledgling Dragon, Shivan Dragon experience. This is one where I wish the story changed, where my army of Allah goes from +2/+0 to +2/+0 and pro a color of my choice.
Yeah. It is an inefficient distribution of stuff. I guess lastly, we should probably talk a little bit more about solitary confinement. I think it's not a great card to do generally.
I think it's a really bad card to do.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about it? It's very repetitive. The incentives are very bad. It is just a weird throwback to when we used to make cards like Stasis and Winter Orb.
Yep.
It's not even, it's more intense than Winter Orb. It's like,
it's in the same set with Genesis. So
it's the same kind of a card as like, like there's a bunch of Legends cards that really tap into this vein of, I guess we just don't play.
Yeah. It's very odd. Also, I had an opponent at PTQ once when I was playing mono red, went turn 3 confinement, and I pass and they go upkeep, discard squee, and I concede, and they like got mad.
So as a person who has spent enough time, like more than any human should have to, for the most part, in solitary confinement, I think it's torture and we should not be subjecting people to solitary confinement. Except I think if you play with solitary confinement,
you need to have
you could definitely be eligible for solitary confinement. I think that if you play solitary confinement, is definitely a crime worthy of solitary confinement.
Terrible card. Terrible.
But we'll be back with the awards.
Hello and welcome back to the Resleevables Judgment Edition. It's awards time. We're going to start off with most powerful card in a low power setting.
I could have gone a few different ways with this one, but because of other awards, I went with Living Wish. And at the end of the day, Living Wish is like, it's pretty high on the list. It's got to be, if it's not number 1, it's one of the top 3 or 4 for, is this card going to just be good in low powered formats? So can you imagine if Living Wish is just legal now?
Yeah.
Card would be phenomenal.
Value over replacement matters a lot for me, and I gave it to Crozan Verge. That card was super strong in its standard and block formats, and it's just not a thing that's given out trivially.
Yeah. I like the design more than it is powerful, but I do see what you mean about value over replacement.
Yeah.
But I would guess that on the average, Living Wish would get played a lot more than Crozan Verge.
I agree. All right. High power format. My answer is Cabal Therapy.
Cabal Therapy.
Not much to say here. I mean, this set does have a lot of competition for good stuff in a high power format, but Cabal Therapy is on an entirely different level.
Whole other level.
All right. Coolest commander card. Your answer.
I don't necessarily love anything going on here for commander, but there is a trolley part of me that likes the advocate stuff.
Oh.
And using it in a political king-making sort of way where I'm going to get an effect, and the downside is that I'm going to bounce some stuff from somebody else's graveyard to their hand.
Maybe my answer is too spiky and too powerful. I gave it to Mirari's Wake. I think it's like conducive to the thing that's going on there.
You're going to get such a target on your head. If you play Mirari's Wake, I mean, it's fine. Sometimes you want to play that way, but the whole table's going to turn against you. That's like when you play Teferi. You're like, oh, Teferi Mage of Zalfir, so good in Commander.
But this is like ostensibly more fun. Teferi is ruinous
I'm not saying it's not more fun. I'm just saying you're going to have a target on your head.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Favorite art. I'll give you my answer first.
Yeah.
It is Gore-Tusk Firebeast.
That was my number 2. It's very close. It was my number 1. My number 1 is Jessica Warrior Adept.
Okay, yeah, that's an arcade post banger. Yeah.
I'm such an arcade post guy.
There's something very charming to me about you have this beast that's on fire, and it's like, how is it attacking other animal? It's just very, very, and it's on a 2/2.
There's a part of me that is starting to theorize that you select art based on Magic Online pop-ups. So like the Gore-Tusk Firebeast, like it just popping up, you have such a strong association with that art popping up.
The Gore-Tusk Firebeast,
yeah,
that's me, and that little critter on the ground that's being set on fire, that's you. And what do you think next turn looks like? Biggest design success.
Through the development lens, the wishes. But I do think that my real answer is that green-white came through and constructed in a variety of interesting and satisfying ways. I would have liked him to go even further, but there were some dimensions to green-white for exploration, and they pushed a few boundaries, and you could play it big or fast or wide, or, there's a few different ways. And it didn't quite live up to the bar set by Mono Black from Torment. But it was fun to think about and build with a lot of the different types of green-white cards. And that was, at the time, we've now had enough Ravnica sets and so on. There's a lot of architecture for every guild. But at the time, green-white was a last place for color combination having any identity, any purpose, any decks, anything. It was last place.
Yeah.
And I think that they helped flesh it out and deliver in a variety of ways.
For a very long time, it's still kind of to some extent, a struggle with Magic of green and white just share so much stuff that where does the demarcation come from?
Right.
How do you make gold cards that are...
Here's one of my controversial green-white takes. I think that they are eventually going to have to bite the bullet and make Giant Growth white.
Yeah.
I think Giant Growth is a white card nowadays.
My answer is there's just a lot of cool stuff here that is a combination of appealing and straightforward and aspirational. The wishes are at the top of the list. For all their flaws, like the incarnations have a little bit of this. There's a lot of designs littered around that are like...
Oh my God. You are so rose-colored glasses that you're giving the incarnations a positive award.
No, I'm just...
God bless you.
There seems to be a level of... There's a bunch of cards where it's just like, oh, this is like... Okay, I get what's going on here. You could play it for pretty straightforward reasons. I think the wishes are up there, but you can also...
There's not a bunch. There are some, right? But the majority of cards in the set are freaking weird.
Yeah,
right?
but of the powerful ones, I think they do a pretty good job of it.
Spiky Patrick. Got it.
Biggest design failure. I'll go first. Can't really tell it's a green-white set.
See, I felt like you could. You're just basing that on draft, though, right?
No, just like, is there a single common that suggests what's going on? That share maybe the phantom creatures, right? You get to uncommon, you get the lands, and at rare there's a handful of gold cards. But for something that's ostensibly a green-white set, common is like almost absent of anything that would hint that. Is it like Ray of Revelation and the other flashback spell, the reshuffler? That's really just it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they could have done more, but I think that it gets really. It would play poorly if you did it too loud.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure what you really want them to do. To me, I worry that might be a little armchair quarterbacking, like some Sunday, Monday morning. Because it's not like, man, the thing that was missing from this set was like a real loud green-white common. Like, to what end? I mean, I get if you're wearing a game designer hat, theorycraft-wise, you could be like, well, why isn't there one? But I'm guessing they tried one. I'm not saying they were right, but I'm saying that I didn't get the feeling that what was missing was like more loud of green-white stuff. I think also part of it is that asymmetry of not trying to just copy the black recipe. I think that black was like was the easiest low-hanging fruit color, whereas green-white was like the hardest to try to pull off. And so I think that the solutions are going to be asymmetric sometimes. I think that black, they really indulged the easiest low-hanging fruit. And I think that in this one, they actually did a passable job of pulling off what would have been the hardest combination to try to build a set around. And I don't mean to come to the defense of this freaking set, but My biggest design failing is for sure the Glory Anger stuff. It's such an abomination, and so much of the PowerPoints were in Wonder, Anger, and to a lesser degree, Glory and Valor, and it was so... I did not love the amount that things were decided by Wonder.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, from a different lens, maybe the biggest design failing was Mitgo accidentally leaking the entire Judgment set, like around the time of Torment, to ensure that there would be no hype.
Yeah.
Card I've won the most with, since I can't answer Cabal Therapy for everything. My first, second, third, fourth is all other stuff I would put other places. Just take it as a given that I played a lot of Living Wish and Burning Wish and Cunning Wish and Cabal Therapy. But all that said, I'm going to say Mirari's Wake.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think mine is actually a not a couched or qualified answer. It is Lava Dart. I've done Lava Dart for what it says. I've done prowess stuff, self-milling, you name it.
Pyromancer's Ascension, you
just shot my own stuff. Yeah. Screaming Nemesis Trigger. Just want to get that going on. Put the stop sign on you. You name it.
God, I could have really gone for a Lava Dart around the time of Spine Rock Null.
Yeah, I believe. Oh my God. That would have been, that's an incalculable amount of damage.
Card I've lost to the most, Cunning Wish. What's your answer?
Anurid Brush Harper. The amount that thing took my lunch.
That makes me feel more optimistic about the world.
Brush Hopper plus Worship, that got me. It's like,
yes.
The problem was,
inject that straight into my veins.
So the problem was, this was a bad time for me because
of the Anurid Brush Hopper and the Worship.
Yeah, because if there's an FNM, right? You're playing this you got 20 people at the shop and you're eyeballing, you're sort of going around measuring up, right? How many people in the room am I better than? How many room or...
I didn't really have that experience.
Yeah, I know you didn't, but for most of us, about the same level, and then all the people...
But what does that accomplish?
The people that were worse than me were overwhelmingly likely to have Anurid Brush Hopper in their deck. So in terms of the slot efficiency, like the points I was losing, it wasn't like, oh, the best player happened to have this card that was good against me, but they probably would have beat me because they were better. It was... like whoever was the worst player at the shop was like 55% to win going into a match with me if they had just Brush Hoppers in their deck.
I love the Anurid Brush Hopper.
Me too.
And one of my fondest memories, not just one, but a whole set of memories of Judgment is with my Uncle Rick, who I'm very, very close with. He plays Magic, but he played Magic a lot during Judgment. Mm-hmm. And he was actually he built a green-white deck and was tuning in. This was like the most competitive he ever got, where he and I, because I went and I lived with him for a bit and we were playing like every day, and he was playing Wild Mongrel, Patrol Hound, Anurid Brush Hopper, Battle Screech, Benevolent Bodyguard,
Elephant Guide,
of course, Phantom Centaur. You can imagine what kind of a deck, and he was kicking some butt.
I'm not beating this collection of cards.
I have to imagine he would have given you a hell of a time. He's just going to turn 1 Benevolent Bodyguard, turn 2, let's call it Patrol Hound. Just go
not even Mongrel, just the second one. Yeah.
The nice thing with the Mongrel is you can say white for the Battle Screech.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
That is nice.
Yeah. But oh my God, he has such a good time Anurid Brush Hoppering people.
So
like him Anurid Brush Hopping a Heezy before Heezy was good.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Can you just picture Herberholz trying to play some kind of very modest. Yeah. Well, I think he's playing some kind of Joker red green nonsense at one point against my uncle, and he's just got a hand of fiery temper and trying to deal with Anurid Brush Hopper at the time, where your dream is if you pull everything together, you can Violent Eruption for parity.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Maybe. Yeah. Also, I appreciate that the Brush Hopper is it's a threshold flashback enabler, but you can also just play it for what it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that one got me a lot.
Design with the most wasted potential.
May I go first?
Please.
Balthor the Defiled. This is okay, I understand you've got where you're doing with black and what are you landing its rares at. It's complicated when you're doing this. It's complicated coming off of Torment. But this is so far afield from anything that anything was ever about. That's like,
and it could have been so good.
it could have been, yeah. This is just like it is. It would be odd in any set, to be clear, but this one is. I don't even know how you land here.
Honorable mention to the worm fangs, because I could imagine a world where you had a little of that stuff in constructed. But my answer is Balthor the Defiled. Are you kidding?
It is so
like this. There's an opportunity for a story, and there's so many ways you could make it. There's like so many different designs you could potentially imagine that do stuff for the set and the story or the theme, or that like have a
juxtaposes
feel,
black to green and white. Yeah,
there's so many things.
So many things.
Favorite card in the set?
My answer: Living Wish.
Living Wish.
Living Wish.
My answer, it's tough because my real answer is Living Wish, but I can't use Living Wish for everything. So I said Cross and Verge. Cross and Verge isn't really my answer, but it would be my answer in an efficiency standpoint.
Gotcha.
The amount that I like Cross and Verge more than its power level is the highest, whereas Living Wish is for sure my favorite.
Well, that does it for our awards. We'll be back in a moment with the grades and the wrap up. Welcome back, Resleevables. Judgment Edition, grades. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Definitely you. Because you're the one with the rose-colored glasses.
This shit is a D. This is so...
I thought you loved this set.
This shit is so bad. I mean, I do as a reflection of a place that I was at a particular time. It's like...
What makes this a D to you?
Pretty much every card that isn't a Wish. And the green-white duels. It's a terrible collection of non-attacking and onboard tricks and things happening in the graveyard. And I mean, there's some cool designs, but as a set, this is like... This was sobering. I would call it sobering to go back and look.
Wow. See, I thought I hated this set more. Like, you were speaking so fondly of it. To me, this set is like a C minus D plus.
I think it's worse than Torment. Going back and looking, I think it's worse than Torment.
It's definitely worse than Torment. I give Torment a C, maybe a C plus.
Okay.
This is a C minus or D plus.
I can still love it and still like acknowledge that this is objectively.
Yeah,
like,
put me down for
God.
So I said C minus, you said D.
Mm-hmm.
So average is a D plus.
Yeah, the incarnations are a negation of the notion that Magic is fun. Like it is really hard to get around those 7 cards in a it's 5% of the set. 5 is that. That's like, and then there's also solitary confinement, and also
that's what I told you. The floor is so deep and bad. Like this set, if you were, like you can frequently, it's like, call the bottom 10%.
Yeah.
10% is not enough.
No.
This set, it's ugly. If you only cut 10%, there are some horrible black eyes. Well, there are some innovative things. There's a bunch of stuff that plays fine. And I like a bunch of the execution of some of the ideas of I like enough some of the execution about a bunch of the ideas. But, this is less bad of a third set than Prophecy.
Okay, sure. I'm with you. I will say the sparkling, I want to give a lot of credit to the 3 lands. That's a really brilliant collection of cards.
The green, white, gold cards aren't that bad either. I wish there was more, but Anner, Brushhopper, Murray's Wake.
And the Neshoba.
That's an inspired.
It's a nice collection of stuff, for sure. It's just a lot of incarnations. And the non-incarnation stuff is not really, the hit rate is really not that great. Now, it's I still love it. If this set goes up on Magic Online, like the draft or whatever, you can bet your bottom dollar I'll be in there. Putting arcane teachings on Patrol Hound and just going to town. I'll have a good time with it.
I'll tell you something that's very telling for me about this set.
Okay.
When I go to Eric Taylor's house for draft night, It was the place to play in Michigan at the time. I go, and I would not play in the drafts. And normally people would be like fighting to get in.
Right.
And I would be very much not
I'm
wanting
all right
to play. I'm good. I'll hang out.
Sometimes I get this feedback of like, oh, I love this set. Made me feel bad hearing you maybe be critical of it. This happened to me about a week ago. I ran into a gentleman and he recognizes me and asks me if I'm who I am. And I say, yeah. And we talked for a minute. This gentleman, I believe his name was Vladimir, made this comment of, I can see why I didn't get into Magic when I was younger because the sets were like, you've made it clear how bad the sets are. And it's like, that's not really the point. You can have a favorite album that gets like pan critical reviews. You don't know an explanation to anyone on that. You know what I mean? You can separate these two things. I think that like as a Magic set, this is clearly like there are some inversions of fun. This is pretty bad, but I can still love it. Just like I can still love an album that sucks that I really liked when I was 13. You don't have to justify that to anyone. It's just one review. And you love it. You love it. And if you don't, you don't. That's great. I love Judgment, and it's a D for dubious. Well, that does it for the Resleevables Judgment Edition. If you're watching this on YouTube, very much appreciated if you could like and subscribe to pump the algorithm a little bit. And if you're watching this on Patreon, thank you for your support. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're going, oh, I haven't even heard about this Patreon thing. What's going on? Go to patreon.com/Resleevables. You will find a variety of tiers, different options for different giveaways, drawings, cracker packs, and the Unsleep podcast, which is a roughly weekly podcast where Chapin and I talk about kind of whatever's going on in the Magic world or adjacent to it. If you're interested in becoming a supporter, head over to patreon.com/Resleevables and find a tier that works for you. Thank you to our sponsors, Tales of Venture, TOA, Magic.com, Eternal Lives Here. Promo code Resleevables for 5% off of all of your orders. Thank you to Dragon Shield. Promo code Resleevables at checkout over at dragonshield.com. That is case sensitive, so make sure it's all lowercase for 5% off of all of your orders. And to Brian Colwell and his channel, Bosch and Roll. Coming up next for the Resleevables, I will not mention what we're doing other than to say
a little twist.
Online bullying works.
I would have gone with terrorism, right? Or is that not going to be great for the algorithm?
Hello, welcome back to Judgment. Start over.
Also, you guys can't tell, but it's 83 degrees in the studio.
Yeah, I think I'm probably pretty shiny. All right. WNBA is gas.
Oh, yeah.
It is like, if you miss basketball in the 80s, like the level of just like violence and pettiness and physicality, turn on a WNBA game. You will not be disappointed. This is also, again, sold, as you all know, in the greatest product of all time, the Judgment Fat Pack. Well, it is. It's the best. It's the best one. This is the only thing and the only game in town that we never, ever, ever were able to keep in stock.
It's that much better than the iPhone as a product.
Magic-wise.
Okay.
Come on.